What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Monday show, starting your week off, hopefully well. Travis Wyndham in the chat saying his day's been dragging. It can happen on a Monday. You don't want to dive into the work week and everything, so you kind of just push stuff off. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday really are the work days, right? I mean, come on. If we're in corporate America or whatever, those of us who do fantasy sports and whatnot, it's a 7-day-a-week job, but Mondays, Fridays, come on. Nobody's working all that hard. Big advocate for the 3-day work week here. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Cujo's here. Andy's here. Travis Duarte's here. Multiple Travises in the chat. Love to see that. Getting a little bit of the crew together to start the week off. It's a really interesting slate. We got 7 on DK starting in the 6 o'clock hour, leaving off the very first game of the day. They added the 6:40 to the slate, though. FanDuel just went with the 6 that starting up in the 7 o'clock hour. I believe 7:07 start time on FanDuel. Really interesting slate, though. Couple aces. Lot of pincushion type pitchers to attack. Some cheap options we might be able to get away with. Definitely some big-time offense showing, but some weather that might really, really mess with a couple of the spots that I really like today. So basically everything in the mix today, as usual. Should be a fun one to go through. Rabbit Hole's here. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you. And before we get started, congrats to our guy, XX Cubs fan, Dennis. Took down not a first-place finish, but a third place, I believe it was, for a few $1,000s on, was that Friday or Saturday night? I forget which. Over the weekend. Since we last spoke, our guy Den took down a nice little payout in the FanDuel $3. So that's the cheaper entry point, but gigantic field FanDuel contest. I believe that's an 18,000 entry contest tonight. So congrats to Dennis. Just shows that it can be done. I don't think he had like a full slate of lineups in. Dennis usually hand builds a couple lineups and, throws some darts at it. And very, very good. One of our more successful players over time as far as the Rotoscouts crew here, going back to the Awesemo days as well. So congrats again to Dennis, and it can be done, gang. Let's take a look at the runs board. Oh, actually, before we do that, when last we spoke, we were dealing frantically with a big slate that was coming on fast and trying to get lineups in and everything. And on that Friday last week, as I was doing it, Labs didn't update anything. Through the end of the day, they stopped updating at like 3:30, and they didn't update any of those lineups. So if you were here, you heard me say, like, they're not dropping any lineups. I guess we're all right. I sign off that show and find out that we had all the lineups. As usual, they had come down. So it's like stupid me for not thinking it was Lab's fault. So I ended up having to type all those 250 some odd players in manually, which was a giant pain in the ass. Long story short, somebody in Discord said, "Hey, why don't we just tie in directly, build a little hook to the API on the MLB website, the MLB confirm lineup spot?" So that's exactly what I did. I spent basically the rest of that night building this little guy. We've got some Python code in the background, and watch what happens when I do this. See those lineups populating? Pretty slick, huh? So we got that going for us now. Should alleviate a lot of our issues as far as getting lineups. Just, having me have to go check them. All I got to do is hit that button now. It'll grab any new ones, leave intact the existing ones. I handled any of the naming issues. The one thing we're going to have to be on top of is the stupid multiple max issue until MLB or somebody actually figures out to put a middle initial on one of those guys so you can distinguish them at all. That I have to manually manage. But using MLB as the source, I had to do another round and strip off all the accent marks and everything. But using MLB as the official source should eliminate any of the stupid, I have to remember to add a junior, take off a junior, add the second, take off of the second. So cleans up a lot of the, the back and forth and nonsense stuff. And kind of wish I had done this like 2 years ago. But definitely big help. Thanks to whoever it was that put that thought in my head to go build the thing. Definitely helpful for us. And we've got a couple confirmed lineups in. Some of those were, by the way, the ones you saw populate. Some of these are for the earlier slate, but several of them obviously relevant to here. Travis says the number of Travises to the people listening, the ratio of Travises to people in attendance right now is astounding. Yeah. Let's get, so we got these first two in. Runs board. So again, this first game here, not on your FanDuel slate. Solid little game too. 4+ implied runs on either side of it. The Cards looking a little bit frisky. Pirates have been an interesting squad to start the year. So if you're on DK, definitely some bats to draw there. You might be able to dance with Dustin May a little bit. We'll take a look at him on the pitching board. He's starting for the Cards. The Pirates are going with a opener-follower situation. It's Mason Montgomery opening ahead of Wilbur Dotel. Wilbur is a long reliever. Just kind of making a spot start here. I don't think they're actively trying to get him stretched out or anything like that. Hasn't gone more than an inning and 2/3 in his 2 appearances so far this year. Actually, you know what? Maybe they are stretching him out. Let me double check that. I gave him like 4 behind the opener. But it looks like he was down in the minors, which I didn't catch in the game log. So let me see what he did down there. Yeah, so 4 1/3, 4 1/3, 5 2/3 in 3 AAA outings back at the middle of April. Last time he pitched in AAA was on the 12th, and then 2 appearances in the show, an inning and 2/3. So I think probably 3. I gave him 4, but I think the more realistic expectation is for 3 innings behind the opener and then hand off to the bullpen, which just leads us right back to the Cardinals. Bats, I think they look pretty intriguing. There's a couple interesting young hitters in that lineup, and they're not overly expensive. So bats on both sides of that one, but maybe some Dustin May. The Red Sox and the Blue Jays, small totals in this one. That one's a interesting spot. We've got the erratic Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Red Sox. I think we can get away with some Blue Jays bats, but I don't love that sub-4 total. And what Ranger is pretty good at usually is limiting home run power, keeping the ball in the yard. So it does take a little bit of the edge off DFS-wise, and that total is just kind of staring us in the face, quite a bit lower than most of the other marks on the board. Dylan Cease for the Blue Jays, big part of that, 3.33 implied on the Red Sox side. Cease, one of the 2 aces of the day. Easy to reach, good enough target for me. He's been pitching lights-out baseball so far. This one is the game I'm most intrigued by. 4.61 implied on the Angels side, call it 4.5 on the White Sox side. It is a matchup between Jack Kachanowicz and Anthony Kay. Kachanowicz is a source of a lot of debate right now in the fantasy community, like the last 2 weeks. He changed his release point a little bit. His arm angle's a little bit higher. He's found some success early on in the season, but he is a guy who got absolutely obliterated in basically every single start, every single spot through all of last year. It's not who he is. And if you look at any of the underlying stuff, 3.10 ERA, great, that's fine, but a 5.23 xERA, 4.87 xFIP in the numbers I'm looking at here. He's struck out 19, but he's also walked 17. There's just not much here. And the strikeouts, maybe there's a little bit of an uptick, but I don't think there's anything sustainable here. I don't think there's anything more than a blip. And those White Sox align pretty nicely against him. So I think they're kind of interesting. And then going the other way, Anthony Kay just is a pincushion here, going up against all that right-handed power in the Angels lineup. So love that. Home run pick of the day comes from the Angels. The one wrinkle is this is our weather game. A lot of rain in the area, and apparently there's a 19-mile-an-hour crosswind. Roth called it blowing in, but it's more blowing like diagonally in from right, but across the field. So if Joe Adell or Soler, one of these big righties, gets into one, it might have an impact and drive it more toward the left field foul pole, which is fine because that's going to be the shorter part of the field anyway. So I don't really take it away too much. And nor does Vegas with that 9-run total. So as long as that game plays, I'm really interested in Angels bats. 4.76 implied on the Mariners side. That's kind of an interesting spot as well. They're going up against Connor Prelip, making his second start. First one went pretty well. If you remember, that was that $4,000 DraftKings start where we were kind of intrigued by the fact that we're getting a full start. He ended up going 4, which we talked about, 4 was fine, 5 was better, obviously, and so on and so forth, but he didn't have to be good for that cheap price. We liked the strikeout upside. He went 4, 2 earned runs on 4 hits, struck out 6. That'll pay the bills at $4,000. He's not priced at that same price point today. Mariners, a lot of quality, couple big righties in that lineup, couple guys obviously really scuffling, but that is a definitely hitter-friendly total. So I think we lean Mariners bats, but Prelip going to be playable at price on both sites. 4.34 implied for the Twins. They're going up against Luis Castillo. Louis been all over the map, capable still of breaking off good starts, but he's been pitching shorter outings. He has only completed the 6th inning once so far this year, handful of runs in every game. Strikeouts have been down. I don't love it, But the Twins are an attackable team with a good pitcher like that. It wouldn't knock me out of my chair if Louis had a good game. And at price, he kind of fits into the slate. Yanks and the Rangers, my uncle and aunt who live in Dallas are going to this game. Enjoy the game, Uncle Ro, if you're out there. Yanks looking pretty solid, 448 implied total going up against Jack Leiter. Not the top of the board as far as the stacks today. They were knocked down a little bit by comparison to some of the other big spots, the Dodgers and so on and so forth, as you can see. But still the Yankees going up against a middle-of-the-road pitcher, I think is fair right now. A developing young pitcher with a lot of talent. But it is the Yankees bats. Definitely some go-to spot opportunities there. Max Fried, one of the aces of the day, going for the Yanks, looking to shut down the Rangers. 3-6-1 implied total there. Max has made 6 starts already. He's been pretty lights out. He's completed 8 innings twice already. One of the better, more reliable options for depth. He has not failed, only one of his 6 starts did he fail to complete the 6th. That was against the Angels, who pound lefties pretty effectively, as I was just saying. 5 earned runs that day. He gave up the only home run he's given up so far this season. Struck out 3, walked 3 that day. It's the only game where he didn't go at least into the 7th. Actually, he's completed the 6th and beyond in every other start. So Max, fantastic for depth. Jack Leiter may be playable. Every now and then we get these starters who make good starts against the Yankees and find it. Who was it over the weekend that I was talking about the changeup maybe give the Yankees fits? I forget who it was. But we saw a decent start, and you might get that. But I don't think we need to go there. Maybe more so on DK. Cubbies in the pods. 369 implied, call it 370 implied for the Cubs. They're going up against Randy Vasquez, another pitcher of great debate right now. Randy's changed up his pitch mix a little bit. I was looking at it. It's been effective for him. I think he's throwing the fastball about 1.5 miles with an additional 1.5 miles of velo on it. But he brought the usage. He changed up the usage. And he changed up how much he uses some of the pitches that were getting hit hard last year. And the increased velo on the fastball, I think, is having a big impact on his changeup, which is finding more whiff this year. So maybe it's real. It's sustainable in terms of an uptick from who he used to be. But I don't think we're getting consistent 8 strikeout games. He's had 2 of them. He's also had a 3 strikeout, 6 strikeout, and 5 strikeout game. And I think he's still very gettable as far as the runs go. I really like that Cubs team. It was difficult to suppress them today. So I think I lean Cubs, but I think Vasquez is playable given the success we've seen so far and the tweaks. We always like when we can point to something with a pitcher that we know is not that great, when we can point to something like a new pitch mix. We always do kind of at least have some justification for what the uptick looks like. Same thing with Kajanowicz. You have to at least give him a little bit of rope on a noteworthy change in just how he does things out there. Matthew Boyd on the mound for the Cubs, missed a few starts, has a 10 strikeout game on the season already. Went 4 2/3 in his return the other day against Philly. 2 earned runs on 5 hits over 4 2/3. Struck out 5 of 19. No problem going to Boyd. Just not a great target with the Padres. 388 implied total says a lot, though. Pitcher-friendly park. And then we round things out. It's Chris Paddock, who is definitely a target for Dodgers bats. 5.5 run total there. Yoshi Yamamoto keeping the Marlins down at 316 implied, looking like one of the top options of the day on the mound. Pretty obvious. There is our pitching board. Tall Tale likes the Randy Vasquez. Or he just wanted to quote Austin Powers. One or the other. I had a boss back when I was working in the city in a sales job who I'm talking about 2010 to 20 or like 2009 to 2017, something like that. So like well after we were all like, do I make you horny, baby? Doing the whole Austin Powers bit. And this dude was like, later mid 50s. And now, like, beyond. And we would go out, happy hours and so on and so forth. He'd be talking to these girls that were, like, my age and doing that, or younger, and doing that bit for people that had no idea what he was even doing. It's like, dude, come on. Got to retire. Every now and then, sure, throw one in, especially on a Randy. I get that. But, like, just walking around to total stranger, like, do I make you horny? Like, come on, man. What are we doing? Anyway, Meech is in the house. What's going on, Meech? Dylan Cease, top of your board, but only a little bit of separation between him and Yoshi. I would say pick your favorite there. Yamamoto's got the better target with the Marlins for sure. Think it makes him more popular, and on DK, probably, actually both sides, he's separated by $300 from Cease. Just the target there and the slight discount probably makes him more popular than Cease, but those are going to be two very popular aces with good cause at the top. If you can put them together on DraftKings, good luck buying bats after spending almost 20 grand on your pitchers, but maybe we can get there with some of the cheapo options on the board. Freed at 10.9 is your most expensive FanDuel pitcher. I think that probably knocks his popularity down a little bit. So if you're using a couple cheap teams, and there are plenty of cheap spots on FanDuel, 10.9 definitely appropriate for Max. A little bit of upside beyond that total, especially if he goes 7-8 innings. We can just pile onto that total. A little bit of daylight, though, between him and the top two guys on things like strikeout rate and just quality of opponent. Matthew Boyd, playable, 91, and definitely at 77 on DraftKings. That's probably your SP2 spot of the day if you can afford it. He's not quite in the bargain bin, but 7,700 is a great price for a guy who is a good, fine. It's just because if Dennis is out there, it's just because he won the other day that I'll say Boyd's actually good. I do think Boyd's good. Not my favorite. But definitely at that price, you can throw that dart. I would not call you crazy if you used, say, Boyd, Dustin May on DraftKings for a double pay down, 77.63. Obviously, we need to fade, or not fade, but we need to get through all three of those aces. Each one of those guys gives up 2-3 runs in their start. Doesn't have a 12 strikeout day, Yoshi. I could see it. I could see it getting through. May's got enough upside there, and there is a significant price gap. So as long as you bullseye the bats that you buy, if you do that, it works. That would probably be my favorite double pay down. Maybe, you could go even more dramatic double pay down and go May and Prelip, but then you're really playing with fire. I don't know that there's necessarily as much upside there. Louis Castillo, as mentioned, for price, perfectly fine. 85 on FanDuel. He's one of the better price fits on the FanDuel slate if you're looking to get to combinations of big bats. It's still difficult to reach, though. The placeholder I've got in right now has Connor Prelip with a double LA stack, Dodgers and Angels. Fishy, I know, but I don't think too many people go to Connor Prelip, and that's the only guy that I would use that fit into the price paradigm there. But Suarez, Castillo, definitely usable if you can reach him. Ranger Suarez, I think a little bit less of. Much more erratic, not a great strikeout pitcher, does keep the ball down, but I have a healthy respect for that Blue Jays lineup, and what they do well kind of connects pretty well with what Ranger might do poorly or what he typically allows. May on DraftKings, again, great option at 6,300, or a good option at 6,300. A little bit of an up and down start, but a lot of talent. That is a free swinging Pirates team. I would say it's a high danger spot given the power and the quality that the Pirates have in that lineup. Several of the guys at or around the magic number for home run. So a little bit both sidesy, but on a short slate for extreme value pitching, for bargain bin pitching, that is a very nice price on a capable enough guy. Lighter's playable, but not at a great price, 78.83 on the FanDuel slate. I think the lineup that I built had 200 to get to Lighter if I want, but I think I'd rather roll the dice with 5 innings of Prelip, even on FanDuel with the quality start in play. Just tough road to hoe here for Jack Leiter against the Yankees. Kachanowicz, I already talked about, especially at 8,800 against a frisky enough White Sox lineup. I really don't like it on FanDuel. 72, if you want to throw the dart, if you got any faith, that's fine. But Jack Kachanowicz, this is a guy we targeted through all of last year. I'm just not buying it. And even what I'd be buying, right? Like I gave him credit for much of what he's done, the stuff that counts in the model so far anyway. I didn't take anything away from him. And this is where he projects 21 on FanDuel, under 10 on DraftKings. That's who he is. I don't see a lot of upside. K is a pretty hard no. Paddock is a hard no. Definitely don't want the opener follower situation. And then the model's having a really difficult time with Randy Vasquez. He's 7,500 on DraftKings. I have this sorted by FanDuel. Let me resort it by DraftKings for you. You'll see him bounce up the board slightly, right? DraftKings, the honest number's there. Actually, he was not sorted correctly. Maybe I just didn't sort it. Yeah. Sorry about that. Vasquez is there. This is a stupid price on FanDuel at 93. The reactionary pricing has gotten out of hand. Just too good a Cubs lineup. I don't think you go there. At 75 on DraftKings, sure, fine. He's in the mix with these guys, resorting by DK again. Yeah, you're talking about him right there. Perfectly fine in the mix with any of these. I wouldn't think you were totally nuts if you went double pay down with like a Boyd Vasquez kind of thing and just threw the blanket over the win, as Gunbacker likes to say. But it's definitely not my favorite combination on the slate. I believe in Randy Vasquez a little bit more probably than I believe in Jack Janowitz. And then the opener follower situation you don't want, and you don't want any of that. Was everybody else in basically the same order after I resorted here? I think so. Yeah, it was just down the bottom. I probably adjusted Vasquez something afterward. So it's a really interesting slate. I would say your true cut line, I mean, you've got a major cut line obviously there. And then probably at prelip, you could argue it's Dustin May, which makes it Jack Leiter on FanDuel. And that's not even great. I don't love that. This is where it gets really difficult FanDuel-wise. Like, that's probably your honest cut line FanDuel. Because difficult to see, not on the slate. 5 innings, if he pitches well. Garbage at poor pricing. It's a challenging FanDuel pitching slate. I would say that probably does lead a lot of people FanDuel-wise to try and reach the 3 aces. Or maybe Matthew Boyd. I don't know how popular some of these guys get. So maybe if you are, trying to game it out, there's a little bit of upside in going to the cheaper guys, buying some big bats over there. Not that the big bats are going to be unpopular, but maybe it makes combinations of big bats less popular, right? Like that Dodgers-Angels stack that I built has Ohtani and Trout and so on and so forth. And that's why I have to use counter prelip with it. But if you're doing that, you're probably reaching spots where, the combination of the multiple $4,000 players is probably going to be less owned because people will save on the second stack, pay up on the mound. So it's an angle. The same's true on DK to a degree, but you've got more to work with, obviously, with the 2 pitchers with some more friendly pricing on some of the less than likely true breakouts. Let's give this one more little update there. We'll let that run in the background and update any lineups that need to come in. Starting things off up top, this game's only available on your DraftKings slate. Cards, again, looking pretty decent. We've got Jordan Walker hanging here at a 10.05 in the home run model. Nolan Gorman not too far behind. Ivan Herrera, who's off to up and down kind of a start, is at least intriguing there at 4,200 where you got to play catchers. So it's not a bad team to stack up on DraftKings. It's just the thing that's going to be true about these Cardinals all season. A very, very young lineup that they're just kind of throwing out there day after day to develop, which is a great strategy if you're the Cardinals, and they've found some early on success with it. They're uncovering some gems, some guys finally discovering their true talent levels. So it's not bad, and they're in play at 4.08 against the combination of Mason Montgomery and Wilbur Dotel. Again, Dotel's probably in here for 3, max 4 innings. So far in his 2 innings in the show, hasn't exactly been quality. 7.91 xFIP, 7.7% strikeout, 23.1% walk. Obviously, that's an entirely meaningless sample. If we pull up Dotel for his minor league career, made 27 AA starts last season as a 22-year-old, so kind of on track that way. 4.15 ERA with a 3.63 xFIP. Struck out 24.5% of hitters, 8% walk rate, so 16.4 strikeout minus walk. Okay. Those are all right numbers, but kind of a big jump to go from a 22-year-old pitching in AA to pitching in the show, not having a full complement of innings against a frisky enough team here. I don't love it. I don't think we're throwing that dart no matter what, and I do think that all adds up to being able to target him with some of these young Cardinals. And, if we're throwing a young, inexperienced pitcher against the younger, inexperienced bats, these bats have more experience than he does. So that can be a good tiebreaker. Pirates bats. Again, you've got some definite power upside to work with. Lau and O'Neill Cruz just below the magic number in the home run model. Reynolds, Ozuna hovering at and around it. And some decent enough quality going down the lineup. Guys like Nick Gonzalez, Spencer Horwitz, Connor Griffin, if he ever gets it going in the show, I think is a nice piece and has gotten very, very cheap at $3,400. A lot of usability on the Pirates, but Dustin May at that $6,300 price comes in with 5 starts, 24 2/3, 18.9% strikeout is not where we want it, but against a 4.7% walk rate, it's at least been effective. He's only inducing a 6.5% swinging strike rate, which is kind of odd with the horizontal movement that he's got on some of his pitches. He should be inducing many, many more whiffs along the way. 5.84 ERA, but a 4.05 xFIP, 4.03 Sierra is more what we should expect in the long term. Around a 4-run pitcher. Doesn't give up tons and tons of barrels, 6.3% so far, but it is on a fly ball trajectory. A lot of hard hit in the mix there. I believe that home run rate stuff plus looks pretty good. Going back a season, was giving up a little bit more exit velo, a little bit more in terms of the barrels. This is obviously still a very small sample, working size sample, but was striking out more hitters, 21.1%. He's halved that walk rate, but it's cost him some Ks along the way. So we can reclaim some strikeout. And against the team with a 24% strikeout rate each of the last 3 years, including this one with this lineup, it's in the cards for him to find. Didn't mean to say cards. It's in the mix for him to definitely find a couple additional Ks along the way here. So Mason play at 6,300 on DraftKings, but I do lean bats in this one again. Starting off with the cards, JJ Weatherholt, 5,200. Woo, that's hefty. What, 123 WRC plus, 349 WOBA, 359 XWOBA is all very, very, very nice. Couple good batted ball events, given the 8.8 barrel rate, 43.8% hard hit, 5 home runs, 4 steals. Fantasy-wise, I guess we're all right. 238, 363, 406 slash line. He's been interesting. That price just kind of caught me by surprise. 52 makes it a little bit more difficult to reach with those 4 guys. You know, the price on Ivan Herrera is okay. Walker at 54, Weatherholt at 52. I wouldn't call you nuts to leave Weatherholt out and maybe do something like that going down the board and just take some of the cheaper options. But he is a good player, one of their top prospects, and doing fairly well over the start of his first 124 plate appearances in the show. Herrera had a good year last year, 4 home runs on the board, 4,200, definitely works, 10.1% barrel, 48.1% hard hit, basically jibes exactly with what he was doing last year. Like the player, low strikeout, a lot of walks, so he puts balls in play or he reaches first base organically. 403 on base percentage so far. Killer. 402 xWOBA under a 365 actual. Alec Burleson at 48. Not a bad option. In the mix, he's got 3 home runs on the board. Otherwise, kind of lackluster slash line, just a 147 ISO. The 374 xWOBA under the 320 actual is kind of intriguing, reflective a little bit of the premium contact. Very low strikeout and high walk rate for Burleson so far. The walks are up. The strikeouts are around where he's been the last couple of years. If he can do anything like sustaining this, that is an elite level improvement for a guy who puts a ton of balls in play. Again, we're just looking for guys who reach first base consistently. Right now, he's at only 328, which defies this a little bit, but I would suggest that that's probably a little bit of bad luck in his BABIP. In fact, since we've got time, since we've got time, Wilbur Dotel, as far as I can tell, not related to Octavio Dotel, for anyone who was wondering. Burleson. Yep, that's your culprit. 259 batting average on balls in play. Last year was 312. So a little bit more good fortune for Burleson, and I think we see an uptick. Walker's been tremendous to start the season. 283, 365, 66, 8 home runs. He has cooled the pace as far as hitting a home run basically every day like he did to start the season. He's up at 31.5% strikeout, but 9.9% walk is a nice improvement. Just needs to keep doing what he was doing at the beginning of the year. Tons and tons of barrels, tons of hard hits so far. I like him in the long term. 8 home runs, 4 steals with 159 WRC plus, 392 xWOBA, holding strong under that elite 402 actual. Gorman is a player with a ton of power. You can see the barrels and the hard hits over the last few years. So far this year, just a 4.8% barrel has him kind of scuffling. 3 home runs, 225, 297, 348. He's never going to be reliable for on base. There's a lot of strikeout in his game. He can draw walks, but he gives back too much a little bit with the strikeouts and inconsistent as far as the results. But if we're looking just fishing around for one guy from the left side who could absolutely blast a home run here, Nolan Gorman is very interesting from that regard. 8.82 in the home run model. Mason Wynn's been playing well. 265, 347, 386. I continue to think that he's overrated. And the 331 WOBA against a 291 expected mark and his premium contact numbers being what they are kind of agree with me. So I do think maybe we get away with continued decent success for batting average, a little bit of on base. Not a major piece, but a playable one at shortstop at 3,500 if you're just stacking this team up. You're building one lineup. Again, I have no issues going to Mason Wynn, leaving JJ Weatherholt at nearly 2,000 more on the shelf. Nathan Church, Thomas Segisi, and Pedro Paez going down the lineup. Church has been okay. 5 home runs, 3 stolen bases, decent slash line, 125 WRC plus with some good batted ball events along the way. Not a premium player, but only 3,100 with a lefty bat going up against a right-handed bulk reliever here. By the time the lineup gets down to Nathan Church, Mason Montgomery, the lefty's going to be out of the game. You do have a lefty-lefty impact, maybe for Gorman, but probably not. Certainly for Burleson and J.J. Weatherholt with the lefty opener. Segisi, Paez, just mix and match types. Not a lot of success. Paez has been okay, but if I'm taking a catcher, it's probably at off the top. O'Neal Cruz, who's better than O'Neal Cruz? 8 home runs, 10 steals, 259 ISO, 126 WRC plus, 23.2% barrels. Just fulfilling all of his potential. 6,100 is a big price to pay, but he's worth it, especially going up against a gettable enough pitcher like Dustin May. Love the upside for him. I would definitely want to pair him with Brandon Lau. And then you've got some pieces to work with. Brian Reynolds is a great target at 4,300. He's off to a okay start. The on base is carrying him right now. 117 WRC plus, 347 WOBA, 345 X WOBA, slashing 242, 387, 374. The power's been a little bit light, just 3 home runs, a 9.1% barrel. You know, he's kind of hovering still in. Well, actually, the barrels of hard hits were fine last season. He just had a down year overall last year. Jury's out, I think, right now. 17.7% walk rate is not who Brian Reynolds is. He's 8.7, 8.2, 8.3 the 3 years before that. So I figure we're probably working about twice the walk rate. So he needs to find some success with the bat. But a playable piece, the price is right at 4,300. O'Hearn at 46. Definitely a lot of back and forth between those two given the price. Ideally, you can fit both of them into a lineup. O'Hearn 315, 404, 489 start to a season. 394 xWOBA against the 392 actual. Just is who he is right now. Looking great. He's had a couple good years in a row. At worst, he's a very reliable left-handed bat that you can mix in at a good price. Ozuna's super cheap at 3,100. 9.5% barrel is the only positive attribute right now. Too many strikeouts and up, too few walks and down. 169, 237, 258. Pair of home runs. We're just looking for the one good cheap batted ball event out of Marcell Ozuna. I do believe that we see some quality at some point along the way here. Guy hit 21 home runs in a bad year last year, 39 the year before, and 40 the year before that. Maybe he's just done. It's possible. We've seen it happen, but my money's on Ozuna at least finding some interesting DFS days. Not a terrible target for him. Nick Gonzalez, solid start at 303, 347, 348, holding down a nice average, putting a lot of balls in play, 18.9% strikeout and 5.3% walk. They're not particularly well struck, but as long as you're just directing the ball, a little contact-oriented hitter, that's not a bad piece. And I'd kind of be intrigued to see what he could do up in this kind of territory, to be honest. Same thing with Spencer Harwitz. Harwitz is getting on at a 372 clip. Why do we not have him leading off with O'Neal Cruz hitting second, Brandon Lau hitting cleanup, Brian Reynolds hitting 3, Ryan O'Hearn hitting 5, Marcell Ozuna hitting 6, and so on? Kind of how I would build this team. Harwitz has a great hit tool, very, very strong eye, and a little bit of pop in the bat given the 8% barrel rates the last couple of years. Right now, just 1.7%. He's slashing 257, 372, 371, and creating runs 13% better than the average player. Pair of home runs on the board. He hit 11 in 411 plate appearances last year while getting on at a 350, whatever that was, clip. It's an underrated guy. 2,700 is a great price to find a player like that down lineup. The one thing that continues to suck about Harwitz on DraftKings is the first base positioning. Griffin is a future star. The kid is super talented. 84 plate appearances that we'll just shove in a drawer somewhere and never talk about again after he becomes that guy. 224, 286, 316 start, 68 WRC plus. A few barrels along the way. He hit his first home run the other day. Hopefully that gets him going. 3,400 is a great price for that talent at shortstop. Henry Davis, mix and match quality catcher at the absolute best. What does a stacked board have? I'm going to see where I put these teams stacked board wise. I think it's Pirates cards. Yeah. Pirates, 4th by points, 5th by value on DraftKings. Cards a little further down, 8th by points, 9th by value. 6th by home run rate, though. The home run rank. They're 8th on the Vegas board, while the Pirates have the 4th highest implied total of the slate. So we'll go Pirates bats, Cards bats. Dustin May, don't play the Pirates pitchers. We'll welcome in the FanDuel slate. A couple of confirmed lineups here. So again, I'm a big Ranger Suarez skeptic at this point. 17.8% strikeout, not enough. 7.5% walk rate is okay in a vacuum, but not against that low of a strikeout rate. 4.0 ERA, 3.83 xFIP, 4.36 ERA. I continue to think he's the 4.25 run type pitcher. Fair number of barrels so far. Only a handful of home runs. He's typically good at keeping the ball in the yard. 42.5% hard hits, 88.8 miles an hour of exit velo. Last year, he was much, much better in the larger sample at inducing weak and medium contact, which was a big part of keeping the ball on the ground or keeping the ball in the ballpark. 5.3% barrel rate on a 12.9 degree average launch. Nothing problematic there with a 2.15% home run rate. If he's going to continue to give up these barrels, though, and if he makes a few mistakes like that against some of the Vladdy Guerreros and Jesus Sanchez, and well, Sanchez lefty isn't great. Vladdy Guerrero, maybe Kaz Okamoto, who didn't get our home run yesterday. Certainly Lenyn Sosa, Eloy Jimenez. There are home run hitters in this lineup. So a couple of mistakes, a couple barrels for free along the way could really bend Rangers' day. And he's not going to get you a ton for strikeout. The results so far this year have been up and down. 4 2/3 last time out, 4 earned runs to the Yankees on 5 hits, gave up a home run, struck out 4, walked 2. Start before that against the Tigers, he was great. 8 innings, 2 hit ball, shut him out, 4 strikeouts and a walk. Still, that strikeout total is not where you want it. He didn't even come away with a win in that game. Not that that's his fault, but 6 innings of 3 hit ball, no runs. The start before that one, 6 strikeouts against 2 walks, got the win against St. Louis. That was a decent one, probably his best of the year. He gave up 4 earned runs in each of his first 2 starts. Didn't get through the 4th inning in one, got to 4 1/3 in the second, 3 strikeouts, 2 strikeouts. That's more the consistent Ranger Suarez that I think we see. So I'm more a fan of the Blue Jays bats, but I don't know that a 3.75 implied total is exactly what I want to go chase to stack up, especially when I just had difficulty identifying the exact guys I would necessarily want in that stack. Going the other way, Red Sox, 3.33 implied against one of the top pitchers in baseball so far this season. I don't think we need to tangle with that. Cease, definitely a target on the mound. 10,000 works, 10.7 also works on FanDuel if you can get to it. 39.6% strikeout rate in 5 starts, an absurd number that probably comes down in the long term, but excellent number for Cease. He's walking too many, but against that, we're still talking about a 27% strikeout minus walk rate, so kind of works. 2.10 ERA, 2.07 xFIP. Everything has been entirely real so far. Yet to yield a barrel this season. 8.3 degree average launch, so he's keeping the ball down. Look at the weak and medium contact. Yet to yield a home run this season. Dylan Cease, pretty tremendous. It takes a lot of the quality away from the Red Sox bats. So does that 3.33 implied total. If you're going in this direction, I think you get a contrarian team. One that's in a bad spot, but with quality names in the batting order. Bear in mind that we're dealing with an entirely new coaching staff with the Red Sox as well, so maybe we see some ongoing changes. This looks like a pretty standard version of the lineup. Maybe it's just a rah-rah leader of men in the clubhouse kind of a thing. But the Red Sox clipped their entire staff basically over the weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. For today, for one thing, we've got Roman Anthony in the 3 spot, which I do like. Willier in the cleanup spot. It's just not a good pitcher to go home run hunting with players like that. Willier, one of our better home run hitters on this team, 7.23. He does lead the group, 11.9% barrel, 50% hard hit on the season. He's hit 4 home runs, slashing 298, 354, 481. Hit us a double dong the other day as the home run pick of the day. But I just favor Cease pretty tremendously here. There are a lot of strikeouts as well. 23.5% strikeout rate consistently last 2 seasons for this group of hitters. You can see right now Trevor Story in the 30s. Last year it was 26 with 9, but the year before that was in the 30s. Very realistic high strikeout rates for all 3 of these guys. So it's a great target for Cease in addition to his just general quality that he possesses. Jarren Duran at 44.29. Sub Mendoza so far 255 on base. Yeah, let's lead him off. What the hell? He's fast. I'm sure he'll figure it out. Great first decision by the new regime. 45 WRC plus. I don't actually think that it's all that crazy to put Jarren Duran in the leadoff spot. Last year he got on a 332 clip, just having a little fun 342 the year before that. So that is actually a decent option in the leadoff role. Lefty against a righty as well. 44.29. Playable piece if you're going to the Red Sox. We know he's a hell of a lot better than those 98 plate appearances. Wilson Contreras is cheap at 4,100 at first base on DraftKings. 3,000. Wish he still had that draft catcher eligibility on DK. He's playable. 16.1% barrel, 46.8% hard hitting. But again, Cease yet to give up a barrel in 5 starts. Difficult to see. 6.95 in the home run model, entirely playable. Off to an okay start with 6 home runs. He is their power leader right now, 131 WRC plus. One of 3 guys in this starting lineup above average for run creation this year. Roman Anthony at 91 WRC plus, a little bit lackluster compared to all the buzz preseason, what we saw from him last year, what the hype is about the player. Most of that is real, though, and most of that hype was justified. Monster barrel and hard hit rate last year in his partial season. Had a 27% strikeout, but walked 13.2% of the time. He's sustained that this year, 26.7 against a 16.8% walk rate. It's part of what's keeping him afloat in terms of the ex-WOBA being at 355 against the 313 actual, below average actual, but significantly above average expected. 51's not incorrect on DraftKings. 27 is a bargain on FanDuel, but again, Cease, difficult to envision them pounding him here. Price is right for Willie on both sides, too. If you're going to the Red Sox, you definitely want these 2 guys. And I would say Wilson Contreras as well. You can give or take Jarren Duran, give or take Trevor Story, Marcelo Mayer. There are playable pieces through here. None of these guys are bad. They're just off to bad starts. Trevor Story, 198, 235, 297. Not where we want him. Pair of home runs, pair of stolen bases, but a 40 WRC plus and an ugly 238 WOBA 260 expected mark. Needs to get his ass in gear. We're not expecting a lot of walks, ton of on base out of Story, but the power's real, still there. Cheap enough bat, 5.42 in the home run model. Mayer at 25, second base only on DraftKings is where you'd want him anyway. Adds third and shortstop, but probably just playing him at second base most of the time on FanDuel. 224, 293, 358, 77 WRC plus. Rough start for the young kid. Carlos Narvaez, Caleb Durbin down the lineup. Mix and match pieces. Sedan Rafaela fills counting stats. So off to a good start. We've seen this a lot from Rafaela before, where he'll do good things across the slash line early, have a good WRC plus, fade in those areas, and then add some home runs, some stolen bases along the way and fill out the counting stats. Just a weird player, a little bit up and down, but definitely playable if you're already going to this team. Caleb Durbin had one of his more successful days over the weekend. I believe he stole 2 bases, scored a couple of runs. That's about all he's good for right now. He's got 3 steals on the year, 1 home run, slashing 169, 260, 270. Ouch. 248, 265. This is the guy they traded Kyle Harrison for. Kyle Harrison struck out 12 hitters yesterday. Ouch. I love nothing more than seeing the Red Sox screw up. That was a bad trade when they made it. It's been made even worse by the results. Travis Wyndham saying Cease historically starts randomly imploding, so that's always in my head, but maybe he'll be more consistent this year. The issue with Cease is always the walks. Even right now, good as he's been, 12.6% walk rate is not at all good. But when it comes against a near 40% strikeout rate, you can punch your way out of a lot of trouble when you're doing that. So he's been able to sustain it. There will definitely be some clunkers along the way. No doubt about it. We'll have some bad Dylan Cease along the way where he blows up at high popularity. But I don't love this spot to be that day. On the Blue Jays side of things, going up against Ranger, the big takeaway, I think, as I was glancing at it a minute ago, is just kind of outside of Vladdy, Miles Straw, underwhelming slap hitter who's just looking to be a piece of correlated scoring. He's low strikeout, puts the ball in play, but doesn't exactly drive it. A little bit of speed maybe if he's getting on base, and he's been effective over 42 plate appearances, but even this is not really who Miles Straw is. Ernie Clement, more a mix and match utility guy. He's cheap. He makes things go, and he's another guy you'd be looking for correlated scoring, but kind of miscast in the 2 spot. 321, 327, 438 is a great start. And this is what I'm looking for. And that's why I said the Blue Jays, maybe do connect well with what Ranger allows, given that these guys aren't selling out for power. They're just looking to dunk balls in play and get on base and cycle and sequence and everything. So that's, reason enough to consider those guys. But I don't love it as a DFS investment. You'd just be looking for them to be on base when Vladdy does something important. 340, 426, 460 start to his season. 391 weighted on base under a 399 expected, 147 WRC plus. Masher of baseballs, it's Vladdy Guerrero. You don't overthink it if you're going to this team. I think he's reasonable, in play as a one-off as well against a lefty. Ranger makes a mistake against Vladdy, it's probably going to travel. But again, home runs, not exactly what he gives up. 6.80 in the home run model, even for Vladdy. Kaz let us down yesterday, 5.41 in the home run model today. He's got 5 to lead this group of hitters. Solid righty bat at 3,600 at third base, 2,900. Definitely fits into the mix. I would say he's probably maybe the 3rd most important hitter on this team today. I'm going to give the 2nd most important title, actually, probably to Lenyn Sosa. Fits in at second base, has more power to give us than Ernie Clement for $600 cheaper on DraftKings, for $400 cheaper on FanDuel with multi-position eligibility. Can absolutely play both of them. Sosa off to a terrible start so far this year, but as a member of this Blue Jays squad, I like the rising tide effect to help him out, and he was quite good last year for us. 22 home runs and 544 plate appearances. The on base is atrocious. Impacts his weighted on base numbers for sure, only a 100 WRC plus, but just give me that sneaky ability to hit some home runs for us. 10.1% barrel, 43.8% hard hit rate in an outburst last year. Right now, that's at 44.2 and 37.5. But if I'm fishing around for somebody who might drive the ball, maybe it's a double, a run-scoring double that drives in Straw and Clement rather than a home run. I'll take that against this pitcher because, again, that might be what we're dealing with. But sequencing against Ranger is in the mix. Eloy Jimenez is somebody who could definitely hit one over the wall. 29 plate appearances so far in his return to the show. He's been pretty decent, 360, 414, 360, yet to hit a home run, 4.5% barrel, 40.9% hard hit. Not striking out, drawing his walks, though. I talked about it the day he got, or the first show after he got called back up. Missed all of last year, was bad the year before that. That year, that lost season was his one bad year. He's only been bad in the majors once. He's formerly an elite prospect. He was fantastic, hit 30-plus home runs as a rookie, and then has just been off the field so much. He's always hurt, but he's still very talented. He is cheap at 25 on both sides. If I'm building with Blue Jays, I am not leaving Eloy Jimenez out anytime he's in the lineup. At worst, I expect him to draw his walks and get on base and not strike out and probably hit for average. And I do think he starts driving the ball again. I really do. That is not a bad player. So take the bargain. And the Blue Jays should probably play him a little bit more consistently while he's here. Jesus Sanchez, I just don't love the lefty, but we like the player. 4 home runs on the board for us already this season. 387 xWOBA to drive the point home under the already above average 330 actual, 107 WRC plus. I think we've talked a lot about Jesus Sanchez, and he's just doing Jesus Sanchez things. 10.6% barrel, 53% hard hit. Just kind of right in line with who he's been. Medium low strikeout, medium low walk. Jesus Sanchez is good. People don't want to believe it, but he is. Davis Schneider against the lefty in play, 3.90. He was the home run pick from the Blue Jays today, 3.90 in the model. It's not special, but I just wanted to go with a kind of a sleeper guy in the mix down here. Had a solid 14% barrel, 41.1% hard hit last year, 12% barrel the year before. So far this year, 15.4, 42.3. It's kind of what we're looking for. Just find that one good batted ball event, the oddball home run. But obviously, it's not exactly breaking the model. Not even halfway to the magic number. Tyler Heineman, just a mix and match guy at the catcher spot. Dylan Cease with a bullet. Blue Jays bats. Ranger Suarez. Red Sox bats. See, we got that Angels lineup in. Meanwhile, I will see if anything changed with this weather forecast. If you weren't here in the runs rundown, this is our potentially problematic weather game. Right now, it's about a 50% chance of precipitation. Roth has it yellow and orange over at Prop Finder. His note is, this is going to be a close one, but I think it just barely works out. Storms should hold south of Chicago through game time with only a very light rain over the ballpark. Another round of storms comes after the game. If all goes as planned, they just play through some raindrops. If the storms south of Chicago move north even a few miles, this could be a washout. For now, I'm leaving the risk it just yellow and hoping all goes as planned. We'll see what the radar looks like pregame. He says winds ripping in from right at 20 miles an hour. But if you look, as I was saying before, it's more diagonally from right to left in toward the plate, but diagonally across the field, which I don't think cuts as dramatically into that right-handed power in that lineup that we'd be looking for the Angels as it would if it was coming the other way or in just dead in toward home plate from center field. So impact for sure, but less so. Definitely a spot you have to keep your eye on weather-wise, though, out in Chicago. Does not look like we have the Angels lineup in. Oops. Let me show you a little. Why is this not allowing me to? Ha! This is what our little lineup fetcher looks like on the back end in Python. And then it gives me the heads up on what was already in there and what was new. So we just got the Rangers lineup in, but we have not gotten that other one yet. All right, Anthony K is a big no thank you. 13% strikeout, 12% walk rate, a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits, a lot of exit velo. We're just under our threshold there for emergencies, but we're well over in both of those. 4% home run rate so far this year is entirely real. It was brought in after a couple seasons of, what was it, KBO? Was it KBO or NPB? I forget. Either way, a couple successful seasons overseas. Back in the show, not exactly out of the gate all that effectively. Lefty bat against all these power hitting righties, even with a little bit of wind. You can see what the home run model thinks of this spot. 4.61 is one of the higher marks on the board. The Angels rank second on the stacks board for runs. The home run pick of the day comes from this team. I am not considering Anthony K at any price. 6,000, 6,600. No, thank you. If you want to throw darts at it on DraftKings and just say the weather helps him out, that would be what you're gambling on. Kachanowicz, maybe a little bit more meat on the bone. 7,200 on DraftKings is not a terrible price. 8,800 on FanDuel is definitely a terrible price. 3.10 ERA, as discussed a little while ago, but a 4.87 xFIP, a 5.27 Sierra, 15% strikeout rate against a 13.9% walk rate. That's a 1.64 strikeout minus walk rate. We're looking for 20 when we talk about strikeout minus walk. 20 makes you an ace. 17 to 20 makes you good. Strikeout minus walk is almost or more effective as an indicator of future ERA as Sierra is, as XFIP is. It's a simple stat, but it tells us exactly who you are. And Jack Kachanowicz is not the guy who has found a 3.10 ERA this year. Jack Kachanowicz is this guy who had a 6.81 ERA last year with matching XFIP and Sierra numbers that look a whole hell of a lot like this year. He's cut down his whip at 1.24, but it's not because he's walking fewer hitters. He's actually walking more hitters. So what does that tell us? He's just been absurdly lucky. Yeah, he raised his arm angle. Yeah, he's throwing the ball a little bit differently, a little bit of a different pitch mix. With all the underlying numbers showing here, including some premium contact, I'm just not buying. Stuff Plus isn't buying. He's limited home runs. That's probably incidental. He did keep the ball down at just a 6.9 degree average launch last year. It's 5.9 this year. It was 3.6 the year before. Even with that in play, had a 4.10% home run rate that was entirely real based on some of that. When he makes mistakes, they travel. He's just gotten lucky to limit some home run balls this year. When those get out, there are usually a few guys on base against Kachanowicz. That's where the inflated ERA comes from. Year before was 2.63% home runs against similar contact, but head launch and barrels down a little bit more effectively in those 11 starts. Still pitched to a 3.99 ERA, but a 4.48 xFIP. Didn't walk anybody oddly that year in that small sample. If he can find that walk rate again, maybe he becomes slightly real. I am in no way a believer in this Kachanowicz spot or in him as a pickup. He's got a 2-start week this week. It's on a lot of waiver wires still because I think people not yet buying it, but a lot of fantasy analysts seem to be. It's weird. Got to get this wins here. What's going on, bud? Saying weather looks less wet there than in Minnesota. Yeah, Roth is oddly more concerned, it seems, about Chicago. I just kind of default to him, and I don't like playing weather, man. It's 70-mile-an-hour winds. All right, if it's 70-mile-an-hour winds, we'll back that down. But it seems like he says that has calmed down now. Yeah, if it spikes back up to 70-mile-an-hour winds, we might want to rescind the home run pick of the day in this game. So I think it's all about the bats. Even with the wind, it's all about the bats. Starting with the Angels, Zach Neto, Mike Trout, Joe Adell, Jorge Soler, and I'm going to throw you some Ozzie Peraza in there as well. Those are your target bats in this lineup. It's very obvious. They're the guys right off the top. You do have some pricing concerns around Mike Trout for sure, but he's well worth it. He's on pace for 50 home runs, 232, 415, 545. We really don't care about the lack of batting average. 9 home runs on the board. He's been mashing 415 weighted on base with a 485 expected. That is dramatic. It's not often you see a guy at a 415 with that high an expected mark below it. Technically, Mike Trout's been underperforming. 26% barrel rate, 49.3% hard hit rate. Remains one of the very best players in baseball going up against a nothing lefty. Mike Trout is your home run pick of the day at 13.13. Zach Neto at 55.34. Not a bad way to fill shortstop. better than his 243, 364, 43 slash line. He has a 200 ISO, 5 home runs, 4 steals, filling counting stats. How about Mike Trout, by the way, with 4 stolen bases to go with the 9 home runs? Mike Trout running again? My God, the guy must be feeling good. Joe Adell's only 45, 29. He's got a 12.77 in the home run model. Not doing exactly what we expected to start the year. 4 home runs on the board. Just a 120 ISO is weird. 6.5% barrel, weird. This is a guy with a 17.2 last year, 11.7% barrel the year before. Still only 126 plate appearances and fewer batted ball events to work with here. So that'll skyrocket as soon as he starts finding his contact. And it's not like he's been bad. He's found success with the hit tool so far, 265, 310, 385. Only 2 stolen bases. You'd like to see him run a little bit more and reclaim some of the overall scoring. What I don't love is the 311 weighted on base against the 323 expected. Last year, that was 333, 365, though. Joe Adell is very much the guy who hit 37 home runs last year. If he finds more batting average along the way, just makes him better. Jorge Soler at 35, 33, 11.2 in the home run model. He's hit 5 so far this year, kind of reclaiming his premium contact, 12.3% barrel. Close enough to the last couple of seasons. Not quite back up at his best marks of 15 and around there. But as long as he's finding consistency and driving the ball, 220 ISO suggests that he is. 346 weighted on base, but a dead at league average 320 expected mark. We're just home run hunting with Jorge Soler, and he's at a great price to do it on DraftKings at that 35. A playable price on FanDuel, but if I'm taking 4 guys for FanDuel, might help me reach a better pitcher if I'm going with these 2, Joey Adell, and then like a Peraza, and mixing him into the infield. Just depends on what you can reach on the mound. I think part of the reason that I have Prelip on the mound in the stack that I built is because I got greedy and went with the 3 outfielders and Neto in that build. Most straight line possible way you could build a lineup today on FanDuel. There's probably going to be 30 copies of it. Peraza's off to a good start, though. 10.9% barrel, striking out at a 25% clip, but drawing some walks. As we've talked about throughout this 84 plate appearance start that he's made, this is a guy who came up with a lot of prospect pedigree in the Yankees system. They made the wrong decision and went with Volpe, who has been garbage. This kid's actually got some talent at the plate. We'll see what it becomes. 283, 49, 493. It's an exceedingly small sample. That means next to nothing so far. But it's nice to see the quality. 132 WRC plus, putting good wood on the ball. Improving in terms of limiting strikeouts. Looks more and more like a major league hitter and getting into this lineup fairly regularly. Michael Botch is here. He's just starting the show and seeing the lineup tool. Yeah. Hopefully that's a big, big help. I think it cleans up some of the messy stuff as far as the names, like I was saying, and just the automation, just the one click rather than making you guys sit here watching me copy paste stuff. Once we get down to the bottom of the lineup, Vaughn Grissom, mix and matchy in the infield, 357, 457, 464, start over 36 plate appearances, obviously is going to cool. Righty bat to throw into the mix. That's not a bad price to fill second base. I'd rather have Ozzie if I'm making a decision between the two. But in my third, fourth build, I think you can definitely make that call. Nolan Shanuel, more here to just get on base, help with sequencing. Low strikeout, high walk rate, so puts the ball in play, hopes to beat it to first base or draws a walk. Not great from the 7 spot, though. He's not ideal to wrap back around to the top from there. I'd rather, if they're going to drop him in the lineup, have him hitting 9th so that he comes back around to Neto, Trout, Adell, and he's on first base. Travis d'Arnaud, we're just hunting for these barrels. He's always been consistent for double-digit barrel rates. A lot of sneaky home run upside as a backup catcher. 24 plate appearances, pretty empty so far this year. Last year, he only hit 6 in 231 chances, which was pretty limited. Year before, in 336, basically a half season as catcher in Atlanta, hit 15. Year before that, in 292, he had 11. Just, again, hunting for that barrel, hunting for that one good batted ball event against a lousy lefty. And Bryce Dedosio's here for defense. I do like the White Sox side of this equation as well. If we're not going to like Kochanowicz, that's a pitcher that, again, we have targeted aggressively over the last few years, and I think there's every reason in the world to go to the White Sox here. 4.5 run total for them. Benintendi's more mix and matchy at the top spot, 3,200, 2,700, inoffensively priced, but he's back to being bad Benintendi. 207, 250, 378 so far, 69 WRC plus, 274, 292 over here. Last year, he broke out a little bit with 20 home runs, but was otherwise just okay. 103 WRC plus, slightly above average. That's not really who he is. So far this year, he's striking out way more, basically doubled the career strikeout rate. So I do expect that cools, finds a little batting average, some on base. He's not a terrible piece in the top spot, but he's in no way a priority. 5,900 for 3,900 for Munetaka Murakami, on the other hand, is an absolute priority. I've already said I was starting the season calling this guy like a light version of Kyle Schwarber based on who he was in NPB and what he does, what his skill set is. And I've gone on to calling him, potentially Kyle Schwarber 2.0. He is just elite plate recognition, elite zone recognition, whatever we're calling it. 18% walk rate, striking out at a 33.6% clip. Again, there's nothing wrong with it when Kyle Schwarber does that. So no reason to worry about it. 23.7% barrel, 62.7% hard hits, 11 home runs and 122 plate appearances. His first 122 in the show. Kid is outrageously talented. And this is, again, a guy who has 8 years of experience in NPB. He started when he was 19 in the second best league in the entire world. NPB ball is better than AAA. This is a player, as I've also said, you guys have all probably heard me say it. This is a player who fans that saw Shohei Ohtani play, they saw this kid play and they nicknamed this kid God. That's how good he is. Absolutely outrageous. Could be a lot of strikeouts in play, but not against Jack Kachanowicz. Jack Kachanowicz is a guy who's just going to throw him meatballs and let him blast. Miguel Vargas is off to a good start. 5 home runs, 5 stolen bases, a 347 on base, creating runs 16% better than average. Not a bad fit in the 3 spot. Has the ability to drive the ball, draw a walk, low strikeout. These guys align well with Kachanowicz. Even the guys who strike out aggressively draw some walks, and they've got guys like Vargas who doesn't strike out and draws walks. It's a bad opponent for Jack Kachanowicz to face here. Montgomery at 48-31. 7 home runs already on the season. 339 on base. Solid 361 weighted on base against a 332 expected. We'll see where that goes for the season. I like him to compete at this level. I think he's that good. 126 WRC plus on the year. We're looking for barrels. This kid drives the ball like crazy. We all saw the home runs that he hit in the half season last year. Everson Pereira, another player. He was Ozzy Peraza's teammate along the way somewhere in the Yankees system. 65 pretty good plate appearances from him. 3,500, 3,100, escaping New York and finding his talent. 3 home runs, 276, 338, 500 start, a 224 ISO. Some very good batted balls along the way so far. Getting a regular crack in this White Sox outfield. Our guy Sam Antonacci at 3,000, 2,700. 233, 351, 433. That batting average will come up. We don't really care about batting average anyway. He's getting on base. He's not striking out. He's doing Sam Antonacci things, which is weird to say because he just got here. But he's doing exactly what we expect from him, except for finding some success in the average department. He's got a great hit tool and the ability to drive the ball. 10.3% barrel in a limited number of batted ball events so far this season. Has an inside the park home run on the board. Has created runs 18% better than average in his 37 plate appearances. It's a good player, just finding his footing in the show, but 5.4% strikeout against 8.1% walk. You're just buying the balls in play. Chase Meadroth's strikeout rate is up a little bit, but so are the walks. He's been interesting. 263, 345, 343, kind of surged over the last couple of weeks as far as driving the ball a little bit more effectively. You can see the barrels have climbed from 1.6.5 season last year to 5.0 in a small sample this year. If he's going to drive the ball a little bit more effectively with his ability to limit strikeouts, draw the occasional walk, but more often just put the ball in play, if he's striking it more effectively, becomes a more interesting player, cheap at second base. Tristan Peters, Edgar Cato, mix and match pieces down the bottom. Peters, a couple stolen bases on the board. Actually, Cato's got one as well, but 77 and 36 WRC plus. It's more a 7-man lineup, but that's a good mix of 7 guys at very affordable prices. So White Sox easily on the board against Kachanowicz. Don't buy the Kachanowicz hype, I'm telling you. Angels bats, White Sox bats. For me, it's neither pitcher. If you're throwing darts on DraftKings, it's Kachanowicz, not K. The M's drawing a 4.76 implied against Connor Prelip. Again, Prelip is just cheap. I think that's the thing he's got going for him. He's not 4,000, unfortunately, today on DraftKings. Would be all over that spot if he were. But he's getting a shot here against the team with a 23.8% strikeout rate this year, 22.325 for the last 2 seasons for this same collection of hitters. So it's not like there's not Ks available for him. And that's what he does. In his 23 starts last season, 82 2/3 in the minors, split mostly at AA with 4 starts in AAA as a 24-year-old. He pitched to a 27% strikeout rate, 8.5% walk. In his 4 appearances, 3 starts, 15 and 2/3 in AAA this year. That was up at 34.9, but so were the walks at 12.7. Obviously, we need bigger samples to work with, but he was an effective strikeout pitcher on his way up through the system. He lost a year in here, didn't he? 23, 24, 25. Yeah, I think if memory serves, he lost most of his 2024. Looks like, he only made 9 starts, 23 and a third innings in 2024. So the development curve was cut down a little bit by just some missed time. So that's why he's, hearing 24 years old pitching most of last season in AA could ring an alarm bell for you, but it was for a reason. So not necessarily behind as far as the age. Getting a little bit of a shot here with the Twins at 6,700, 7,600. I think there are strikeouts available for us. He only went 4 in the debut, which would maybe be the concern. But again, he faced 17 Mets, struck out 6 of them. 2 runs on 4 hits is entirely fine with these prices against this board. Again, this is a very top-heavy slate pitcher-wise, and those top-heavy pitchers are super expensive. Every single one of them is worth it, but it's difficult to reach. So I think that puts Prelip in play against a free-swinging Mariners squad. We've got a lot to worry about with power. Several of these guys above or around the magic number. Some of the elite home run hitters in baseball. But every single person on this team that's not named Randy Arozarena is off to a bad start this year. Or Cole Young, I guess, is off to an okay start too. We know that Julio will come around, find his numbers. We expect that Cal Raleigh will. Beyond that, I don't know. Robbie Refsnyder's great in the leadoff role as a platoon specialist against lefties. He's gotten awfully cheap. Sites had been pricing him up a little bit when he was in the lineup because they know it's just to face a lefty, which he does well. But 121, 211, 303 start to his season, a 46 WRC plus will do that to you. Challenged 2 pitches. What was that, yesterday? Challenged a pitch that was like 3 inches outside the zone. Won the challenge. The umpire called the next pitch a strike. That was the worst pitch of the season called a strike. It was like 5 and change inches outside the zone. And then Kochanowicz had a walk-off. Or Refsnyder, rather. Had a walk-off. Refsnyder better than Kochanowicz. Good hit tool. Ability to drive the ball. Mostly we're looking for correlated scoring if we're going to Robbie Refsnyder off the top. But a non-threatening hitter ahead of Cal Raleigh. Raleigh at 5,000, 3,300. 6 home runs on his season. We know what the power looks like when it's going right, but hasn't really looked right. 13% barrel, 29.9% hard hit. Drawn a few walks, but it's down from last year. Striking out a little bit more than he did last year. Looking a little bit more like the guy from 2 years ago in terms of the strikeout and walk rate. If we look back to beyond the 60 home runs that he hit last year, he hit 34 that season. 270, 312, 436 with a 117 WRC plus. This is not a bad catcher if that's who he actually is. I don't think he's actually this guy. That was a ridiculous outlier season. Maybe somewhere in between, favoring the 2 years ago guy a little bit more strongly if we were weighting it like, 2 of those and 1 of last year in the average. Divide by 3. But still excellent at 5,000. 3,300 on FanDuel's gotten aggressively cheap as well. It's red, but it's only red by comparison to all the other cheap prices. Julio at 4,500, 2,800. Bad start, 250, 333, 330. It's not an atrocious slash line. It's just bad for him. Pair of home runs, 3 stolen bases, just a 95 WRC plus. This is where it's really ugly. 0.80 ISO, 304, 324 WOBA and ex-WOBA. Lacking barrels, lacking hard hits. Same is true for Josh Naylor, lacking barrels, lacking hard hit, but it's more characteristic of Josh Naylor. The hard hits being down has cost him a little bit. Strikeouts being up and walks being up a little bit is kind of a wash. 208, 283, 317 start for Naylor. Ouch. 3 home runs, 4 stolen bases. You're just looking for some counting stats there, but he's quite a bit better than he's been. Arozarena at 42, 33. Not getting credit for carrying this team right now. 276, 361, 410, a 123 WRC plus, solid in the WOBA and ex-WOBA department. Last year, 27 homers, 31 steals, kind of an underappreciated part of this team all season long, 120 WRC plus. Excellent for fantasy because he fills counting stats, and he is affordable on DraftKings. JP Crawford's cheap for a guy who gets on base like he does, 345 on base. I'd rather have him up here than down here if he's doing that, though. Kind of lost hitting ahead of Mitch Garver, Leo Rivas, and Cole Young. Give me that on-base ability ahead of these guys. Reffy should probably be hitting here, and Crawford should be hitting here, even with the lefty on the mound. He's a mix and match guy, though, in this spot. Not overly appealing. Certainly not a reason to go to the Mariners. Same with Garver. A little bit of righty pop in the bat. No home runs in 35 plate appearances. We know he can drive the ball, though. Solid in terms of the barrels, the batted ball events so far this season. A lot of strikeout, fair amount of walk in his game. He's playable as a 20. Honestly, at 23, if you're skipping Cal Raleigh for some reason while you're stacking Mariners, hopefully it's in your like 9th or 10th Mariner stack, perfectly fine. If you're one-offing a catcher, though, that's kind of interesting at 23. Against what should be a gettable young lefty with no experience. Prilip didn't give up a home run in that game, the 4 innings that he pitched, but in those 4 innings, the 17 or whatever I said hitters that he faced, 18.2% barrels on a fly ball trajectory. Certainly a 96.4 mile an hour exit velocity on average will play in that one game. Obviously, that doesn't mean anything, but definitely could be prone to some right-handed power here. So as a one-off catcher, that kind of is interesting. 5.97 in the home run model. He hit 9 in 290 plate appearances last year, but 15 in 430 the year before. You can see where the averages, the on-base are. This is not a reliable player, but one good batted ball event could definitely change your slate. Cole Young, just cheap at second base. Decent start, but he's only here for a moment. Leo Rivas, same deal. Cheapo mix and match type guy. Luis Castillo at 87.85 is in play, given the pricing on both sides, given the lack of middle. There's no real middle on this slate. Right? Again, you already saw the pitching board, but you've got the super expensive aces who are justifiably there. And then Luis Castillo basically is your middle. There's maybe more of a middle on DraftKings, but especially on FanDuel with how they price guys like Vasquez and Kachanowicz for the uptick. Guys like Ranger being in kind of a high danger spot, Jack Leiter being in kind of a high danger spot. Really difficult to envision what the middle of this slate looks like. Matthew Boyd solid in that regard on DraftKings, but not so on FanDuel at 91. So Castillo against a Twins team that gives you some strikeout upside, 24.4% so far this year, just 21.3 last year. But we have, I believe, there's probably a couple small samples working in there. Same group of hitters, 26.8% the year before, with no help from Luke Keeschel that year. But a small sample on a guy like Tristan Gray at 51. So that's probably in truth more like that 23.3. But that puts some Ks on the board for a formerly great strikeout pitcher who's working at a 21.1% clip this year, but still missing bats effectively, 11% swinging strike rate, 5.01 ERA, but a sub-4 xFIP, just over 4 Sierra. It's probably around this 4.15 type guy. Just too many guys on base so far, but it's not because he's walking anybody. So again, like what we looked at before, that's probably just leading to some bad luck. I'm going to suggest that it's a little bit of misfortune that's pushing that. And yeah, I think that's backed up by the fact that right now, opposing hitters are working at a 392 batting average on balls in play against. Some bad luck in the mix. Last year it was 286, 285, 267, 275 going back the years before that. So a lot of misfortune going on for Luis Castillo. Could that be a product of diminished stuff? Certainly. 101 mark by Stuff Plus so far this year is still above average, and there was an uptick actually from last year. So that's probably not your culprit. A lot of premium contact on deck. Same thing was true last year. 3.09% home run rate. Kind of got away with it last year. Getting away with it so far this year. You do have some home run threats in the lineup on the other side, most notably Byron Buxton, but not to sell Cody Clemens from the left side short, not to sell Matt Wallner short from the left side either. A couple high danger hitters for Louis to work with here. But at price, I think he's just your solid middle of this slate and entirely playable. If I was drawing a bunch of Luis Castillo shares for those reasons, though, I'm probably hedging with at least a few twin stacks across the portfolio. Buxton, 115 plate appearances. Again, that's all. It's just really all I care about. 15.1% barrel, 46.6% hard hit. The bumpy start in the 229, 287 front end of that slash line will be corrected over time. 5 home runs at 200 ISO. Just a 95 WRC plus, kind of reflective of the lack of on base so far more than anything else. It's Byron Buxton. He'll be fine. And he's going against the diminished Luis Castillo for only 3,000 on FanDuel. Makes him appealing. 53, holding strong at a good price on DraftKings. Brooks Lee getting a shot in the 2 spot. Switch hitter, 25-28, effectively priced. 5 home runs and a stolen base on the board. That's a player with a lot of pedigree for the hit tool. We'll see where the ability to drive the ball goes. Right now, it's not really coming from anything but happenstance. Right? Those barrel and hard hits just kind of look in line with what he's done in the past. But if he finds a few more oddball home runs along the way, it only helps the cause. That's a very playable piece at shortstop. I prefer him at second base, which is where I can put him on FanDuel, or third base at a short third base. Less than ideal playing him at short, but the bump up the lineup definitely helps the quality overall. Trevor Larnach at 3 at 2,700. Playable part. Slow start to his year, over 69 plate appearances. Getting on base at a 406 clip is good. But last year, 250, 323, 404 with 17 home runs. Good, not great player. Lefty bat to throw into the mix against Luis Castillo and just hope to find that one good barrel, one good batted ball event. Josh Bell at 4. Not a bad option at first base. 3 home runs in an otherwise kind of mixed start to his year. He's right at league average for weighted runs created. We'll see where it goes, but he's found some good batted ball events. Ryan Jeffers has as well. It's another affordable enough catcher at 43. 33 where you don't need the position. He's just kind of less relevant to your FanDuel slate and priced up above everybody else on the team. There's not a universe in which Ryan Jeffers should be more expensive than Byron Buxton. I don't care if Byron Buxton loses an arm. He should still cost more than Ryan Jeffers. That's absurd. FanDuel is all over the place this year. Take advantage. Cody Clemens is 3,100. He's got a 15.8% barrel that kind of jibes with the contact that he made throughout last season. That's an interesting hitter. First base only kind of sucks on DraftKings. 3,100 is fine price-wise. It blocks you from getting him and Josh Bell in the same lineup. 2,600 with first, second, third, and outfield eligible on FanDuel. That's one of your better moving parts on the entire slate. Cody Clemens is a one-off at second base is great. That's not a bad option. 2 home runs, 4 steals great for the price. Not great that he's like a superstar. But 2,600 works. He's got a pair of home runs, 4 stolen bases. Otherwise, pretty poor start to his season. But he hit 19 homers in 386 plate appearances last year. Again, I just want to take the lefty with a chance for some premium contact against this version of Luis Castillo, who for the better part of the last season and a month has been giving up loads and loads of premium contact. Keishel's good for average, a little bit of on-base skill there. So far, it hasn't materialized in 114 this year, but that is his skill set. Low strikeout rate, low walk rate, so a lot of balls in play. Matty Wallner's another guy we're just looking for this premium contact to come through. It's down a little bit compared to the last 2 years, but still, these are decent to good numbers. 101 pretty bad plate appearances otherwise. 3 home runs to reflect the premium contact. Nothing to talk about here. 65 WRC plus. Really needs to get his act together. Right now, the strikeouts at 36% are killing us, and that's reflective more of 2 years ago than last year. Last season, 22 homers and 392 chances. 114 WRC plus. 327 expected weighted on base against the 334 actual, little overperformance there in terms of the overall quality. If you're a slash line fan, 202 is not getting it done. 311, 464, okay as far as the on base goes, but too many strikeouts. That's a 304 on base against an 11% walk rate. So he's just a 3 true outcomes hitter, but that's exactly what we want in this situation against Luis Castillo. So if I'm stacking Twins, my top priorities, Buxton, Clemens, Wallner right there, and then just grab 2 of the guys between Buxton and Clemens to fill out your 5, man. It's probably Larnach. Can't have Josh Bell if I'm taking Cody Clemens there. So maybe I do take the catcher on DK. Something like that. But Brooks Lee is also not a bad option there, given the cheap price. And then Tristan Gray at the bottom of the lineup has been frisky over 50 plate appearances, 3 home runs on the board, a 115 WRC plus, a couple few good batted ball events, and another lefty to throw into the mix against Luis Castillo. At worst, he's playable. Mariners, Twins. Actually, no, that's not right. Mariners, Castillo or Castillo Mariners, just because of how important Louis probably is to this slate for where he fits in. And then Twins bats over Connor Prelip, but I do think Connor Prelip's entirely playable at the discount. We're just hoping for 5 innings and some strikeout. Don't count on your quality start if you play him on FanDuel. Don't count on anything. He's probably going to get tattooed here. But one of the few cheap playable pieces on the FanDuel slate. We're hoping for 5 innings and a handful of strikeouts. And a win, ideally. Give this another click over here. See if we got the Yankees lineup yet. Yanks with Max on the board. That's one of the top pitchers of the day. Striking out just 20.5% of hitters, but we're not looking to Max for a ton of strikeouts. He'll find them in the compiling sense. He'll find a few more rate-wise along the way this season as well. 23% last year, 23% the year before. So I like his chances to get back there. But overall, Max is a guy who can give you 7-8 innings every time he takes the mound. So he's just got the opportunity to, even if it's at a low rate, you're seeing more hitters, you find more strikeouts along the way. So perfectly fine from that regard. 2.40 ERA against an ugly 3.91 xFIP, 3.98 Sierra. Maybe something to watch there. But I like him to bring those down kind of commensurate with the ERA, just the quality of the pitcher. Very difficult to hit home runs against. Excellent in inducing weekend medium contact, as well as keeping the ball down, limiting barrels, limiting launch angle. Very, very good starter here, and a good spot to throw him at the Rangers. Even with a bunch of righties in this lineup, we're not really sweating the the Wash McCutcheons, the Sam Haggertys, the Ezekiel Durans, Josh Young even of the world. The lefties are actually more threatening hitters in this lineup, but we're not worried about them with Max on the mound. So fire any share you can. 97 is a great price on DK. 10.9, your most expensive FanDuel pitcher. I do think that has an impact on Max's ownership on the blue side. Jack Leiter at 83.78. 25.9% strikeout against the 9.8% walk is nice so far to start his year. 4.97 ERA, but a tidy 3.85 xFIP, 3.82 Sierra. What concerns me is the high walk, the too many guys on base, and against the Yankees, most notably, the 14.1% barrels so far, the 46.5% hard hits, the 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo. So far, he's quite lucky to be at a 2.68% home run rate, and if he does that against this team, that probably changes in an awful hurry. Last year, 2.79 with somewhat similar contact, but it's been more exaggerated in the small sample this year. Got to keep an eye on it. The kid does have a lot of talent. Could find his way through this Yankees lineup based on the strikeout. 23.7% this year, 24.4 last year, 24.9 for the same collection of hitters the year before. Jason Dominguez potentially in the Yankees lineup, by the way. We'll see. Confirmed hasn't come down yet, but he's in the projected. Got the call yesterday after they sent Luis Gil down. Told you that Luis Gil is just overrated. Gil is overrated. If I mumbled that, I feel like I mushmouthed that. Jason Dominguez, I'm a big believer in that talent. So a lot of compelling reasons to go to Yankees bats here. We didn't get the lineup there, but a 4.5 run total. Trent Grisham in the leadoff spot, a 9.30 in the home run model. He's got 4 on the season, but the start has been bad. Not reflective of how good he was last year, and definitely the numbers so far at 160, 317, 346, just a 307 weighted on base, don't reflect at all the premium contact he's been making. So pretty unlucky to start his year. 350 expected under that 307. So I like Trent Grisham to make a monster turnaround at some point, 39-29, and hitting ahead of Aaron Judge, Ben Rice. Definitely an ideal spot for the lefty. Rice at 57-44, 9 home runs on the season, slashing 326, 457, 33, giving us an Aaron Judge light from the left side of the plate so far. Honestly, just underneath Judge's barrel rate so far, above Judge's hard hit rate so far this year. What I like about Rice, though, is he's got the ability to drive the ball, more like this, where he's been the last 2 seasons. I doubt he stays up there, but he's a really discerning hitter. Got a really good eye. The 27% strikeout rate so far, that's where he was 2 years ago. Last year in a larger sample, it was 18.9. I like him to bring it down. Maybe he lands around 22% while selling out for more power, but he's drawing more walks so far this season against what was already a good walk rate. So I think that makes Ben Rice very, very interesting. Everybody knows that. I'm not selling you anything you don't know about already. 65-42 for our guy Aaron Judge, who remains less expensive than Ben Rice, slate after slate, even while maintaining a high price. Only a 17.45 in today's home run model. 10 on the year. It's Aaron Judge. Don't overthink it. Cody Bellinger at 45-32, 3 home runs. Decent start to his year, getting on at a 362 clip. Excellent 374 weighted, expected weighted on base underneath the 343 actual. Tons of upside for Cody to hit some home runs, get on base, tons of correlated scoring. I'd maybe be interested to see Cody in the leadoff spot instead of Trent Grisham, given Grisham's just scuffling. Cody's very interesting in that role if he's getting on at the pace that he is. Jazz Chisholm from the left side at 4,200 against the kid who's prone to giving up the barrel. I like Jazz to continue his surge. 2 home runs, 9 steals. He's kind of getting his act together finally now that the weather's warming up. We've talked about that a few times. 9.50 in the home run model today. Dominguez, if he gets in, is only 3,500 on DraftKings. And thank you, FanDuel. That's your access point for the Yankee stack. He's the dead min price on FanDuel because FanDuel is stupid. No plate appearances this year. 10 home runs, 23 steals in 429 chances last year. Got on at a 331 clip. That's a good player right there. 103 WRC plus. He was a positive run contributor. 67 plate appearances the year before. was kind of lost. 33 plate appearances the year before that. He blasted 4 home runs in the show. It's a kid who's got tons of power, tons of premium contact ability, can get on base, can be very interesting for stolen bases, does everything you would want from a fantasy option. That's a good piece at 2,000. That's a good piece at 35 on DraftKings, but it pales in comparison to the pricing mistake on FanDuel. Love that bat in this spot. Austin Wells, 27. Great option where you need the catcher spot. You're just looking for one good batted ball event from Austin Wells. He's got a pair of home runs on the season, otherwise pretty poor start to his year. He is getting on base a little bit. 18.8% walking. He's actually cut strikeout. I expect the strikeouts go back up. We probably end up maintaining around a double-digit walk rate, though. Last year's walk rate was a little bit impacted, first full season. So I like him to, maybe find around this in the long term, but really it's just about that home run stroke from the left side from a cheap catcher. On FanDuel, he's a lot less relevant at 25, but he's in the mix. If you're building a bunch of Yankee stacks, you absolutely include some Austin Wells. You absolutely include some Ryan McMahon. We talked about McMahon's ability to barrel the ball and drive it the other day. He went out and hit a home run for us that night. 10% barrels, 57.5% hard hits. You cannot tell me that's not interesting and exactly who Ryan McMahon's been over the course of his career. Run into some bad luck to start his year. 177, 292, 274 is atrocious. It's been one of the worst hitters in the league so far this year. But the power is real. The ability to draw a walk is real. A lot of strikeout in his game, a lot of zeros, but the occasional and big and inexpensive big spot for a very cheap price. Jose Caballero can get on base, steal a bag. He's got 11 steals against a 314 on base. Solid slash line to start, 104 WRC plus. Nice piece of correlated scoring with some stolen base bonus. Rangers in a bad spot here against Max. I really don't like the looks of their option. 361 implied total in Vegas. You get Nimmo off the top, lefty's less than ideal. He's getting on base at an elite clip to start his season. Solid over here. 4 home runs on the board. That looks like the old version of Brandon Nimmo that we like to play for fantasy quite a bit. A lot of barrels and hard hits out of him so far this year. I just don't like today's spot for him. Rest of the week against some of the righties, probably more in the mix. Josh Young, overrated overall, 3,100 across the board. He is back to hitting the ball effectively, though, 308, 360, 560. Maybe he's found it again, and it continues going forward. I shouldn't have said overrated. That's not fair. Was quite good a couple years ago, and then just kind of scuffling the last year plus. But off to a good start. That's maybe him reclaiming his talent. But again, not a good spot. Good price, though, 3,100 on DraftKings at third. Corey Seager at 49 is a very nice price. Lefty with Seager, you worry about less, but with Max on the hill, you kind of go back to that concern just for everything that Max does to take away the home run upside. 6.21 for Corey Seager to lead the group. Jake Berger has a 5.41 in the home run model. Again, just Max cutting into things. He's hit 5 so far this year. Otherwise, pretty poor start to his season, 78 WRC plus. Old man McCutcheon, not really getting on base to start his season via the walk. A 268 on base is no good. This is 41 pretty terrible plate appearances from the old ancient righty. If I'm looking down here for cheap, especially if I'm building on DK, I'm probably grabbing Higgy over McCutcheon most of the time and saving the $600. Higgy, you're just looking for a good batted ball event. 15.4% barrel, 46.2% hard hit. That's who he is. I mean, that's an exaggerated version of who he is. He's good for 10 to 12 home runs every single season. Breakout for 17 2 years ago, but we're probably going to close the year around 10 or 12. Max on the mound, not the guy to throw that dart against. Hagerty, Carter, Ezekiel Duran, just kind of mix and matchy down the bottom of the lineup to save us a moment here. Max, Yankees bats. Yeah, probably in that order because the Yanks are, I think, 3rd or 4th on the stacks board today. But Max, Yankees bats, probably Al Leiter. Don't play Al Leiter. Jack Leiter over the Rangers bats, but neither of those is all that appealing. Oh, Larry points out that the Angels lineup came in without having to go grab it. There it is. Vaughn Grissom hitting 3rd. That's interesting. I'm okay with that. That's kind of the ideal spot to put a player like that. Where Neto, Trout, we're looking for one of those guys to get on, the other one to clear the bases, or both guys clear the bases. And then Grissom kind of there to reset the table for Soler, Adele, Peraza. I would have probably, even with a lefty on the mound, it's a low-end lefty, I probably would have slid Nolan Shanuel up into that spot so that you don't have a run of 6 straight right-handed hitters later in the game after we chase Anthony Kay. Not that that really matters, but you get a little stagger built in. And Shanuel's just really good at getting on base when he's going right. Right now, he hasn't been. Don't make a liar out of me, Nolan. Yeah, there we are. 353 on base. 264, 353, 389 last year. 109 WRC plus, only slightly above average and not a power bat or anything. But you put him here instead of Grissom ahead of these guys, and that makes more sense. But that is what they're trying to do with Grissom in that 3 spot. Right now, 357, 457, 464. You can see why they did it if we're just working with this year's numbers. But I would trust Shanuel in that spot a little bit more. All the right-handed power that we were looking for is intact in this lineup, though. This is perfectly fine. And Vaughn Grissom, let's see. 342 on base, over 418 chances in AAA with the Red Sox system last year. 13 homers, 9 stolen bases. Low 17.5% strikeout against 8.9% walks. That's as a 24-year-old in AAA. Oh, I'm sorry. That was last year. So, capable, just as capable of holding down that spot and just getting himself to first base ahead of the rest of these guys. Playable piece. Your priorities are obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But like if let's say you were looking to build that does give us a reason to go away from Ozzy Peraza, take the discount at second base where you're going to play Peraza anyway, and just go with Grissom. And you just straight line it there, and it helps bring your 5-man average down. Now I'm paying $44.20. So $4,500 a piece for those guys. I'm paying Joe Adell's price for everybody. It's not bad. Worth going back for. Thanks, Larry. No Cubs, no Padres yet. See if that's actually true. Meanwhile, Randy Vasquez. We talked about the general uptick in quality so far. Missing bats pretty effectively. 13.3% swinging strike rate, 26.3% strikeout, an elite 1.88 ERA. But the real numbers are these mid threes, the 3.54 xFIP. But he's been keeping guys off base effectively, not losing guys to walk. He's cleaned that up nicely. And you can see the essentially doubling of his strikeout rate, the doubling of his swinging strike rate so far. I talked about the changed pitch mix. He's got a little bit more zip on the fastball so far this year. A little bit more zip on the fastball this year. And I think that's having an impact because he's finding more whiff with the changeup. He changed the mix a little bit. If I could find it. There it is. He went from throwing the cutter as his primary pitch at nearly 25% with a 21% usage on the 4-seamer. Found an additional 1.5 miles per hour of velo on the 4-seamer and added 10 percentage points of usage for it. So that's why I think it's playing better through the arsenal against the changeup. Now the off-speed stuff works a little bit more effectively. Primarily the 4-seamer, the cutter, the sinker, and then a little bit with the change. He's not tabled his curveball, slider, and sweeper, but he's using them a little bit less. And I think the same thing's true. He's finding for using them less is more like, hey, surprise, there's my slider. Surprise, there's my curveball. And it's having a little bit more of an impact. He's been finding a lot more whiff with those pitches in a tiny, tiny sample. Not a guy I rely on, but a guy I would probably believe is more real with his uptick than Jack Kachanowicz. Everything we saw about Kachanowicz leads us to the conclusion that nothing is real there. Remember the 1 point whatever strikeout minus walk? Well, what did I say was our target? Around 20%, right? Randy Vasquez, right about 20%, 19.3. Not bad. 7,500 definitely works on DraftKings. Going up against the good Cubs lineup, but a 3.70 implied total in a pitcher-friendly park. That's just an effective enough SP2. 9,300 is a broken, stupid, don't play it kind of a price on FanDuel. I'm not saying he can't succeed there, but I am saying that probably is a limiter to your lineup quality. I'd rather spend less on some of the other starters in the 8s that we've talked about. I'd probably rather have Louis Castillo for less on the mound, Connor Prelip for less on the mound, significantly less, like 2,000 less. It's just a high danger spot. And I don't fully believe that this is real. There are good reasons for it we can point to. But, I mean, as a pitcher, we had 26 starts of sub 15% strikeout and a high walk rate last year, 20 more starts of sub 15% strikeout with a manageable walk rate 2 years ago, but 4.90 xFIP under a 4.87 ERA. Last year, the ERA was fine, but the xFIP was 5.5. So was the Sierra. The strikeout minus walk was 4.4. So again, very notable change of pitch mix increased velo, makes the whole thing dance. I'd like to see it a few more times before I go spending 9+ on him on FanDuel. Cubbies bats I do think are in play, given some of the, I'm not totally sure / don't fully believe of it. I do think we can get to some Cubs. And maybe it makes them a little bit lower on. Maybe it makes them a little bit not sneaky, but less popular than they ought to be, which is the same thing as lower on. This is why the show runs long. 5,300, 3,600 for Nico Hoerner is a great start. 4 home runs, 7 steals, 142 WRC plus to start his year. Nico's excellent. Low strikeout, high walk on first base all the time, setting the table for this team. The ability to swipe a bag. He's stolen 7 on the season. Michael Busch at just 36-27 is a high priority bat if you're going to the Cubs. You can see he leads the way in the home run model today. That was supported by Fangraph's game sim. They loved him in this spot here. Randy Vasquez historically is a guy who's going to let you make a lot of contact. And even with this uptick so far in these 5 starts, 13.5% barrel, 41.9% hard hit. He's gotten away with it, but don't think that lasts all that long. That's part of why the ERA is at 1.88 so far. Alex Bregman's cheap, 41.28. So off to an okay start. I don't think it's justified to have him as cheap as he is, given what we know about Alex Bregman's ongoing quality. 252, 336, 374. He's got 3 home runs on the board. Creating runs okay. Just around league average, 319, under the league average at actual WOBA, 321, just over the league average expected. Ian Happ, we love around here. 350 on base, 7 home runs already this year, a 15.2% barrel. He's only 4,200 on DraftKings. That's a great, great price. The Cubbies are discounted on DraftKings. 35 is the correct price on FanDuel. Seiya Suzuki at 44.34. Another player, differently priced across sites. Take the discount. 9.5% barrel, 45.2% hard hit in 70 plate appearances, over which he's hit 4 home runs already, getting on at a 414 clip. Looking great to start his year. It's a player with plenty of power. The power for Suzuki is very, very real. Moises Ballesteros is affordably priced at 35.28 from the left side. He's got 4 home runs on the board. He's slashing 397, 446, 690. We're not going to play him against Randy Vasquez? I don't know. Dansby, 37, 35. He's hit 6 home runs. He's off to a slow start in terms of the slash line, but the power, the ability to drive the ball is all very real. It's why we've always loved Dansby Swanson. 11.7% barrel, 47.7 hard hit last year. Similar numbers each of the years before that. This year, uptick to 13 and 47.8 so far. But it's a sustainable uptick. That wouldn't shock me if he stayed at that level all season long. It's just the fact that he's found some bad luck along the way that's pulling that slash line down. You can see the 341 xWOBA under the 329 actual. In this one, I think DraftKings is probably the one that's got him a little bit low. 35, more correct on FanDuel. I don't love him hitting 7. I'd rather have him up in this territory, but it's not like I can make a good case for moving him up in favor of any of those guys, in place of any of those guys. PCA really needs to get things going. 74 WRC plus. Price is holding strong at 5. 2,800 is down, given the skill set, given what he can do out there and put together some counting stats for us. A little bit of home run power that has completely abandoned him so far this year, but 5 stolen bases, at least pad scoring. At worst, he's a playable piece. Miguel Amaya is a mix and match catcher. If you're going to the Padres against Matthew Boyd, Boyd's an effective starter. Right now, in 14 innings over 3 starts, he's at a 39% strikeout rate. That is elite and matches Dylan Cease's number. 5.79 ERA, but a 1.86 xFIP 2.0 Sierra. Pretty ridiculous difference there. I think this is more the Matthew Boyd that we know and love and should or know and tolerate than should expect in the longer term. 3.21 ERA last year, but a 4.22 xFIP, 4.09 Sierra. This is probably who he is, around a 4-run pitcher with around a 22 to 25% strikeout rate. But the start is great. He's missing bats extremely effectively so far. 18.4% swinging strike rate is difficult to argue with. That amounts to 5 strikeouts over 4 2/3 against the Phillies in his return to action last week. 5 2/3 of 10 strikeout ball against the free swinging Angels. Was very good in that game. Faced 20 hitters, struck out 10 of them, 1 earned run on 2 hits. And then kind of a clunker in his season debut against the Nationals, honestly. 3 2/3 of 6-run ball on 6 hits. He just happened to strike out 7 hitters in that game, but he was pretty bad in that one. So basically across the entire thing, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle with Boyd. 77, super playable on DK. 91, definitely playable on FanDuel, kind of right there in the mix with Louis Castillo, but more expensive. And in equally poor target. The Padres, not a great target for strikeouts. 20% this year, 19.2, 19.7 the 2 years before. 3.89 implied total does suggest that Boyd has the chance to keep the runs down. If he finds some Ks, he'll be a decent play. but the price difference is what you want to focus on the DraftKings slate. Going to Padres bats, 43-33 is fair for Ramon Laureano. 4 home runs, 3 steals on the season. The slash line has kind of come down, but he's maintained the premium contact, maintained the power outburst that we saw last year. 339 weighted on base against the 348 xWOBA, 117 WRC plus. Been one of their better bats all season so far. Fernando Tatis, 54-31. Slow start to his year. I like him to get everything in gear, especially given the 12% barrel, the 66.7% hard hit so far this season. If we're targeting some of the premium contact that Boyd is allowed in this small sample, Fernando Tatis absolutely has to be a part of your plans. And he's got nice and cheap on FanDuel. That's a one-off to keep in mind on your FanDuel slate. 54, effectively priced on DraftKings. Jackson Merrill's cheap enough. 49-33, bad start to his year, but at least some counting stats along the way. Just an 82 WRC plus, getting difficult to see the quality in the WOBA and xWOBA department so far. Same thing's true for Manny. Somebody asked in Discord when I was talking about Nolan Arenado and how he is still broken. Do not buy the Nolan Arenado slight power surge. It's not real, and I can prove it. Manny lost a little bit of swing speed so far. We're monitoring Manny. He's officially on the watch list right now. I like him to reclaim his talent. I don't think he's washed yet. I don't think, after a very good year last year, that suddenly it all just went away. 27 homers, 14 steals, 123 WRC plus, a 354 xWOBA last year. He's just scuffling to start the season. It's only 110 plate appearances, but the fairly significant dip in fast swing rate and overall bat speed is a little bit of a warning light. But it's like maybe we've gone from DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 4, but we're not at 2. We're not at 1. Not nearly. Give me another 200 plate appearances first, 150. Xander Bogaerts off to a very good start to his year, priced up on FanDuel, but fairly so. This is a formerly very good player who had a decent year last year, stole a bunch of bags, got on base effectively, finished the year at a 104 WRC plus, just 11 home runs, but he's hit 4 already this year while maintaining the quality for on base. 351 weighted on base against a 365 xWOBA, 126 WRC plus. Xander Bogaerts has been downright good so far this year, and that's the Xander Bogaerts looking like he was a few years ago. Maybe finally put it all together. He had some weird, not keep you out of the lineup injuries, but just hamper your ability to feel good out there injuries over the last few years. Healthy and playing well right now. 4,200 is a great price to find him on DK. Miguel Andujar is cheap. Both sites. 311, 344, 443 start to his year. 124 WRC plus. We're just looking for average limit strikeouts. Put a few good well-struck balls in play. He did that over 314 plate appearances last year. Quietly hit 318, 352, 470. Hit 10 home runs that were a little bit noisier that people tended to notice. And he did get into DFS lineups. This is more of a hit tool-oriented player, which is reflected in the 354 weighted on base against the 298 expected. I think he continues to succeed for batting average. And if he drives the ball a little bit, even if it's just for doubles, that's an interesting enough hitter as long as he's priced down like he is. Ty France, Freddie Finnerman, Jake Cronenworth. Cronenworth right now not getting on base like usual, but if he's in that 9 spot, that's an effective enough wraparound based on who he's been over a handful of seasons. Freddie Finnerman not displaying the hit tool that we've seen from him in years past, but a playable enough catcher if you're going to the pods already. 26, I'm not really looking for him for a one-off. Give me a guy with a little bit more power if I'm going to one-off a cheap catcher. And then Ty France, very cheap at first base. He does have 3 home runs on the board. He does have a 141 WRC plus and 36 plate appearances. He's also got an outrageous 463 xWOBA on some very good premium contact. Last year, 7 home runs, 257, 320, 360 in 490 plate appearances. I could show you several very similar seasons for Ty France. More mix and matchy than he is superstar like he looks in some of these numbers right now. Matthew Boyd on DraftKings. Randy Vasquez on DraftKings. Cubs bats, Padres bats. Matthew Boyd on FanDuel. Randy Vasquez on FanDuel. I just don't agree with those prices. Boyd is more a $9,000 pitcher than Vasquez is, by the way. That's why I would rank him up, and obviously the 7 points of projection difference. Last game up. Marlins and Dodgers. No lineups for this one yet either. Bunch of people out there. By the way, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Haven't been mentioning that. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen all show long has been the plug for the show. Rotoscouts.com for anyone not familiar out there. Full projections, all the premium content for baseball, including the top stacks, the power index, the home run picks of the day, the game-by-game snapshots where you can do all this research with all these stats next to the pricing, next to the projections in screenshot mode, going through every game. A lot of content for baseball. You also get basketball hockey through the playoffs. Got to get those up on the site after the show's done. It only takes mere minutes with a couple games in play for both. Some fun playoff games going on both sports. Hockey has been outrageous. If you don't watch NHL playoffs, you're missing out. Even if you don't like hockey, it's just great. High intensity, overtime, fighting. It's wild. Jason Farnes says, y'all still running that Angels White Sox bats with that wind blowing in? Yeah, I talked about it a little bit, Chase. Still love that spot. And the key for me is, again, that it's blowing in more diagonally across the field rather than, right? Like blowing in from like here, that way, rather than like this way or this way. If it was coming from left to right, I just now realized I had a baseball diamond back there this whole time. If it's coming from left field across the field, it cuts into the righty power a little bit. If it's coming from dead center toward home plate, it's cutting into it a little bit more. Coming across the field from right, if Mike Trout turns on one and pulls it toward left field, left center-ish, and the wind just pushes it more toward the left field foul pole, that's just pushing it toward the shorter wall. So I think it still gets out. So I'm not really as concerned. I do think there's a little bit of, obvious downtick from that, but I think that's also reflected in our Vegas total, which still has those guys looking pretty great. No guarantees, no promise, but Mike Trout was your home run pick of the day, and I'm sticking with as long as we don't get a washout there. I'm more concerned about the rain than I am the wind. And to go back to what gotta get this wind said earlier, if it goes back up, if it goes up to like a 40-mile-an-hour wind, then all bets are off, and probably, good reason to go away from it. Even blowing across the field, that's a different situation. But good question, well worth going over again. Quality Soul says Weatherman Terry. Yeah, seriously, you got to get the green screen. Do the Bricktown one. Where are my legs? That was from Anchorman 2, which I watched the other day. It's been on one of the cable channels. Underrated. I didn't like it the first couple times I saw it, but I've come around on Anchorman 2. It's got some funny moments. Anyway, Marlins, Dodgers, last game up. Yoshi Yamamoto against the Marlins, 316 implied total. That's one of your top pitchers of the day. It's him. It's Dylan Cease dueling for that top spot with Max Fried a couple points behind. Absolutely love it. Fire away. 32 2/3 over 5 starts, pitching deep into ball games. 22.8% strikeout isn't elite, but a 13.2% swinging strike rate is quite good. You can throw him against this team. 20.7% strikeout is not exactly pushing a ton of Ks toward the pitcher, but that's, Liam Hicks off to an outrageous 6.3% strikeout start. I don't know that that's necessarily real sustainable in the long term. Kyle Stowers at just 11.5%. He was a 27.4% strikeout guy in a more complete sample than 26 plate appearances he's made this year. Those numbers are going to go up. It was just 21.8 for this collection of hitters last year. The guys who were in the league 2 years ago, 29.9. Obviously, that's also not a fully real number. I think we're dealing with around 22 to 24% strikeouts for this team when it's all said and done. More than enough for a little bit of an uptick for Yoshi here. He's been great at limiting runs, 2.48 ERA, but a 3.64 Sierra, 3.64 xFIP, 3.56 Sierra. A little bit of premium contact allowed so far in terms of barrels at a 9% rate, but that's fine. 34.8% hard hits, 88 miles an hour of exit velo. He's elite at inducing weak and medium contact. So perfect pitcher to throw up against a up and down mix and match kind of a team like the Marlins. I do think they have some interesting hitters, but this is probably not the day to go find a Xavier Edwards, Stowers. Just don't like mixing them against Yoshi here, especially with that Vegas total being quite as low as it is. Going the other way, Chris Paddock is just a target for Dodgers bats. Shohei at a 22 in the home run model. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys above the magic number and another 2 in the 9s, depending on who's in the Dodgers lineup today. Absolute opportunity to mash. Ohtani doubling the magic number and then some. Paddock so far this year, 24 innings, 22.5% strikeouts against a 5.4% walks, perfectly fine. Giving up a 48.1% hard hit and 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo, 4.50% home run rate, bad stuff rating, 1.54 whip. There's your problem. He does have a 3.66 xFIP, 3.60 Sierra. It's something to watch maybe in the long term against that 6.38 ERA. Those numbers are obviously sparkling. But last year he finished at 5.27 with a 4.63, 4.60. A lot of home runs on deck. Limited for strikeouts. He has pushed the strikeouts up in the small sample, but this Dodgers team is not the one we want to target at a 5.47 implied total that leads the entire day. If you're going to Marlins bats against Yoshi, it's probably misguided, But again, there are some playable pieces if you're looking to be super contrarian about it. That's really the most you're going to get out of this team, though. 10 stolen bases out of Jacob Marcy, who otherwise has not done much to maintain his spot in the batting order so far this year. He's very cheap, though, at 42, 3,000. Not a bad way to get things started. Kyle Stowers would be an absolute priority. That's their home run hitter. Getting him back in the lineup does make this team a little bit friskier. Not done much in 26 plate appearances so far, but he's barreled a few. Well, no, he's hit a few balls hard while lacking barrels. 5.3 against the 68.4 in what is probably like 5 batted ball events. 397 xWOB against the 362 actual. Last year, he had 25 home runs in just 457 chances and was elite in terms of the actual and the expected weighted on base marks. Got on at a 368 clip as well. That is a good player. Otto Lopez off to a hot start. He's probably less than likely to sustain this. Just the premium contact is very likely to come down in the long term for Otto based on where he was the last 2 years. Good at limiting strikeouts, putting the ball in play, doesn't draw a ton of walks, so maybe he continues to succeed via good fortune and BABIP. 314, 360, 486, 3 home runs, 4 steals. It's been very, very good, but I don't like the spot for the righty. Xavier Edwards, on the other hand, I do believe in that hit tool. I don't think he continues to drive the ball. 343, 425, 467 slash line, just a 124 ISO, but he's found an uptick in barrels. It's only 5.5%, so again, that's not even a good barrel rate, but it's significantly higher than 0.6 and 1.8 and 1.5, where he's been in the last 3 seasons. This is a player we're mostly looking for the hit tool, the ability to get to first base and steal a bag. They're asking him to do somewhat different things, hitting him cleanup this year. At worst, he's interesting under normal circumstances, but you can see where the home run model is at 0.87. Not an ideal option for DFS. Probably, if anything, should be leading off instead of Jacob Marcy. Hicks, playable enough catcher at 41, but not a good projection based on not a lot of quality. 314, 354, 523 with 5 home runs, probably the high watermark overall for his season, but he has been good to start the year. I don't want to take it all away from him. 6.3% strikeout and 5.2% walk. Just putting all those balls in play, you're going to find some success. Agustina Ramirez is actually the catcher that you want from this team. Bad start, 2 home runs, limited slash iron, 84 WRC plus, and atrocious in the weighted on base so far. He hit 21 home runs in 585 chances as a rookie last year, 332 xWOB, but under the 302 actual. So underperformed last season. Price is down. Take advantage if you're going to this team, but not a reason to go to this team in this matchup. Owen Casey at 3 at 27. Lefty bat with a little bit of pop, but a bad spot. Graham Pauley, Connor Norby, more mix and matchy down lineup. You do have 4 home runs combined from those 2 hitters in a small sample, but they're not that good. Dodgers kind of speak for themselves. I don't really have to sell any of these guys, I don't think. Shohei Ohtani at 63-43. 6 home runs, more than double the magic number. Go for it. Freddie, 52-32. FanDuel price is nice. 5,200 is not bad on DraftKings, but it's a little bit more expensive relative to the DK cap than I think the 32 is on FanDuel. 3 home runs. The average is down a little bit. He'll be fine. 344 weighted on base against a 399 expected. 118 WRC plus. Freddie Freeman remains elite at first base. Will Smith, if he's in the lineup, $4,000 catcher on DraftKings, $2,800. You can play him on FanDuel with Freddie in place of Freddie in certain Dodgers builds for the discount. That is a major, major piece. Drives the ball effectively. 3 home runs in 89 plate appearances. 342 xWOB, 107 WRC plus. Kyle Tucker's Kyle Tucker. He's only 3,300 on FanDuel, which is silly. 58 DraftKings holding strong even in the slow start. 238, 325, 371. We know he's a hell of a lot better than that. Major source of premium contact. Excellent left-handed bat. Absolutely fire with Kyle Tucker, even at the high price on DK, but especially at the low price on FanDuel. Teoscar Hernandez at 46, 3,000, 4 home runs. Otherwise, low-end slash line, but we know he's better than that in terms of the season-long number. And we're just really hunting for the barrels, which are sustained at 12.7 against 11.5 last year, 14.9 2 years ago. Hit 25 home runs in 546 chances with a 207 ISO in an otherwise just okay season last year. 247, 284, 454. Had a 324 xWOBA and a 315 actual. Just was better across the board 2 years ago. So maybe we're slowly sliding down, but at worst, we're just looking for the right-handed power from Teoscar. So definitely get away with that. Max Muncy at 46, 35, one of the better home run hitters in baseball. Gets on base like crazy. Excellent for walks. 300, 394, 633 right now. 9 home runs leads this team right now. Max is a masher from the left side. 19% barrel this year, 54% hard hits, but elite numbers in those categories across each of the last few seasons. Regularly double-digit barrels, double-digit walks. Max is excellent. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. 4,600, 3,500. He is cheap on DraftKings. I almost made Max the home run pick of the day. I was that close, but I wanted to use that Angels game, and I figured the Dodgers would be just super stupid popular like always, and with the highest total on the board. Andy Paez, Ha-Seong Kim, Alex Freeland, not a bad way to round things out. Paez off to a fantastic start. 5 homers, 4 steals, outrageously good slash line, 158 WRC plus. Probably cools in the long term, but that is a good source of premium contact, and should hit 30 home runs, 28. I like him for upper 20s to 30 in the full season. Ha-Seong Kim is a piece you can move around the infield, hitting for average, getting on base, creating correlated scoring. Freeland has all those talents, just hasn't been getting it done effectively. I'd kind of like to swap those two guys if I can and get Kim in the 9 spot, Freeland hitting 8th. And that way I get just a more effective Kim wraparound back up to the top, which makes him a little bit more interesting. Larry C says, Terry, your favorite 2 stacks tonight, Dodgers and Seattle here. Let me give the freebie for the non-subscribers. Subscribe over at Rotoscouts if you get a chance, by the way. It's under $1 a day for access, all-in access to all those great pieces that we talked about, including our top stacks board, which is buried over there. So the Dodgers are the number 1 overall stack of the day, Larry, so that's a good call. Pretty obvious. Dodgers against Chris Paddock. Yeah. Get there. What I would say about that is, maybe you want to consider using one of the further down the lineup guys, like a Ha-Seong Kim, just to offset a little bit of price while getting a decent option for correlated scoring in that and offset a little bit of ownership at the same time. But all those guys are going to be popular. That's a pretty obvious spot. I really like the Angels. I also think a fair amount of the White Sox against Kachanowicz, but we've got the weather concerns and the wind concerns and everything in that game. So I get writing it off. I get that people don't like going to the Yankees, but the Yanks obviously look great. I think if I was being honest about it, I'd say Dodgers, Yankees, the duh answer. But those are probably your 2 actual best stacks of the day. But I think you made a fine choice in going to the Mariners against Connor Prelip. I'm just going to probably be using too much Connor Prelip in my FanDuel lineups today because he's one of the few affordable options over there that allow me to access Angels Dodgers builds, Yankees Dodgers builds, Yankees Angels builds. For me, I'm living with those 3 teams right now and then mixing in some cheap pitching across the few lineups I build, or at least the first couple. But yeah, fine choice with the Mariners. No argument with you whatsoever. You can see DraftKings wise 6 by points, but it's close. You always have to bear in mind, especially up toward the top and reflective of the Vegas totals, these are often separated by mere decimal points in the average with a larger offset for the Dodgers and the Yankees, just because of who's in those lineups. But when we just are averaging FanDuel and DraftKings points, there's not a lot of daylight between where, say, Seattle is and where the Pirates are. Seattle has the better Vegas total. They're second in Vegas total today. So yeah, second by DK value as well because of how cheap those guys have gotten. 4th by home run. So that's a great DraftKings pick. FanDuel, it's a little bit less so just because they don't have quite the extreme value, but 4th by value, 5th by projection, and still second Vegas, 4th home run. You can see where the ugly parts are. A lot of time you'll see the Vegas totals align pretty well and the bottom of the board align pretty well with the best pitchers of the day and the target pitchers up at the top. Who is the sneaky one? The Twins were kinda, and the Cards, I think, were kinda. The Cards were up here before I made some back-end adjustments, and they slipped down a little bit, but that's another good example. The Cards are very competitive if we actually put it together with the numbers showing, the averages showing, with 4 through 7 here. So I wouldn't write off the Cards on DraftKings either against that opener-follower situation. Home run pick of the day remains Mike Trout, even with the wind, even with the weather. The only thing that'll block the Angels from having a good day in that spot is some rain or maybe some wind. They're like the opposite of the post office. Wind, sleet, snow, rain might hamper their day. But otherwise, love the Angels. I like the White Sox a great deal on the other side of that one. We're absolutely trying to get to Dylan Cease, Yoshi Yamamoto up at the top, Max Fried up at the top. And then we got a lot of the rest of the way. Louis Castillo, again, for the money, is going to be in some lineups for me. He is your middle today on FanDuel. 91 for Boyd is a little bit expensive, but you could call him middle. I call that more top-end pricing. 77 makes it work a lot better on DK. Ranger, I have no faith in. And again, everything about that Toronto team just aligns with, even if they don't get the long ball, just dinking and dunking Ranger to death and scoring a handful of runs just by sequencing. And at those prices, it's not all that effective. Not a primo source of strikeout either. I would probably play Jack Leiter against my Yankees for a little bit more strikeout upside for 200 less on FanDuel, 300 more on DraftKings is debatable. Obviously, the Blue Jays are a lower end overall lineup, but I just think that the hit tool, the lack of strikeout, just clashes with what Rangers going to want to do out there. Dustin May is a very nice piece at the 63 on DraftKings. Going up against the free swinging Pirates, there is a lot of danger there, but that's very cheap. That's one of your playable bargain bin pieces. I already talked about Prelip. We talked about the uptick for Vasquez being more believable than the uptick for Kachanowicz. FanDuel's just got them both priced unfairly. DraftKings, either way, but I would say Vasquez significantly ahead of Kachanowicz in it being real, the changes he's made versus Kachanowicz. K, Paddock, Dotel, Montgomery, just no. Yeah, sure thing, Larry. I guess that brings us to the end of the show. 5:30, that was what I was targeting, right on the nose for a 2-hour show. Gets me out of here with plenty of time to rush off, give a quick update for the confirmed lineups, and then get NBA and NHL up on the site. Playoff slates all the way through the playoffs for basketball, for hockey, baseball, rocking and rolling all summer long. Check out rotoscouts.com, under $1 a day for all of it. Football, not far away. What did everybody think of their drafts? Hopefully you like the players that your teams took in the NFL draft. I was kind of a fan of the Giants draft. I was hoping that the running back Love would slide and they would take him in a Saquon-ish kind of a way. Kind of absurd that kid comes into the league as the highest paid guaranteed salary running back of all time now based on that draft slot, though. 20 million more guaranteed money than Saquon Barkley gets last year. That's stupid. They need to work on that. But anyway, I was happy with my football draft. Football will be here before we know. We're going to blink our eyes. It's going to be August. We're going to be talking training camps. But anyway, guys, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something like Cubs did the other day, even if it's a third place. Man, that's a couple grand in your pocket. We'll take that all day long. Shout those results out in Discord. Discord's linked for free in the description for this video. Let us know if you got a lineup tracking. Everybody will get on board and root for you the whole way. It's a lot of fun in Discord. Hop in there, join the community. But let me know on Twitter if you take something down, if you have a nice little day that you're happy with, a little profit. Doesn't have to be a win, doesn't have to be anything crazy. If $12 in your pocket makes a big difference for you, or it's just nice, you want to show off the lineup, share it with me at Rotoscouts on Twitter. I love seeing you guys succeed out there. One more time, good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something, and we'll see you tomorrow for more of this on a bigger slate. Adios.